Hey, everybody on YouTube, what is going on? Yes, it's another night of Spaced Out Radio, and our original guest, Long Island Bigfoot, had to cancel due to family reasons. So, my guest, who was supposed to come on with my birthday show on Monday, and maybe I'll convince her to come back, I don't know, we'll have to see, is Samantha Mowat. Now, for a lot of you who know Samantha through my dealings with her, well, you're in for a treat. And if you've never heard Samantha's story, well, you're really in for a treat. All right, before we bring the lovely and talented Samantha Mowat back in, let's give a rundown. In the gold medal position, we have SJ, Mike L in the silver. Andrew's taking home bronze tonight. All right, Tiniest Squish, how are you? Good to see you. Race fan, you're way out of the running tonight. Jack Clark, how are you? The gorgeous and talented Emily Bigelow is here, otherwise known as Alaska's greatest athlete. There she is. Jan Yannick, how are you? The double yay. Nice to see you. The lovely and talented Wagon Breath is back. She'll be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, everyone. To the left of the studio. Paul Holland, how you doing? Give us an update on how tomorrow is looking for us, if you don't mind. We'd appreciate that. And the lovely Jessica Lee is back. Yes, Jessica has brushed and flossed twice before tonight's show, just so you know. And let's see. Parkway, good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. And Shar Naughton, much love to you, Shar. The lovely and talented Jenny Metz is here. Yes, there she is. Oh, I forgot to say, Shar will be signing autographs after the show. Do yourself a favor, line up to the left of the studio. To the left of the studio, if you don't mind. Case for Infinity, welcome to our chat room for the first time. Kings and Quist, how are you? The lovely and talented Cosmic Fleur is here. Mr. Catfish, good to see you. And let's see, who else is here? Typical Watch, and the handsome Ed Claytor is here, everyone. The handsome Ed Claytor. Nice to see you, Ed. And Susan Plays, Mama Susan, good to see you. And Joshua Taylor up in Fort Mac. How you doing? Hope you got a good cup of oil for yourself. The lovely and talented Kira. She's our gorgeous wrench. There she is. Give a wave to everybody, Kira, if you don't mind. Millennium, good to see you, my friend. Always a pleasure to have you here. As we scroll on down, Sassy Sandra, thanks for coming on in. And let's see here. Who else we got? I know. Magnus, how are you? Good to see you, man. Good to see you. And all right. I know. There we go. Upload logo. Okay. So that's not going anywhere. Either way, it's going to bug me. But that's okay. Uncle Dale and his power stash are here, which means that if you're in Austin, Texas, and you find Uncle Dale, rub his power stash for good luck. It says to give what I've heard, and just rumor here, but apparently people find that they can bench over 400 pounds just by rubbing Uncle Dale's mustache. So make sure you find that. You want to give that a rub if you're in Austin, Texas. The gorgeous wrench Jenny is here. Kurt Seltzer with a splash of lime. Thank you for coming. Tommy Ireland, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. Dry Toast, the best name in YouTube right now. Dry Toast. Mary Bone is here. She's a vegetarian. Mary Bone, Mary Bone, Mary Bone. All right, moving on. Mozart Arujo, how are you? Welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Thank you for joining us. Let's see here. The sultry Susie is back. Ozzy, oi, oi to you. Ozzy, sister, oi, 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 oi to you. The gorgeous Princess Denali is here. She's one of our wrenches and the official royalty of Spaced Out Radio. The lovely and talented Amy Vegas O is back. Thank you for joining us, Amy. We really appreciate that. Now, let me scroll up here because we're packing in real quick here. Real quick. Lovely Linda Bennett has arrived. Make sure you give us a wave. Anita Torres, good to see you back. You're looking gorgeous tonight. Randy Spurl, you're looking gorgeous as well. Hello, Yola Tango. How are you? Thank you for joining us. Science Bob is here, everyone. Science Bob, thank you for kicking off the super chat tonight, my friend. We love you here. Jay Breezy, thanks for coming on in. Richard Elmore, Combat Monotone, welcome to our channel from Twitch. We appreciate you. Cryptid559, thanks for coming on in. And I'm running out of time here. I know I am, but that's okay. Rachmaninoff, good to see you. The gorgeous Kim Jellin and the lovely Jennifer P is here. Rooted in gorgeous sacredness. Thanks for coming on in. Steve Stockton and Murray F. Good to have you here. Hi, Michael Lastuca. How are you, my friend? My brother Eugene and the gorgeous Helena. Good to see you guys. And I'm going to run out of time here. I will get hellos to each and every one of you, but thank you. We're going to get going here in 15 seconds because there she is, Samantha Mowat. And I absolutely love her. We're going to get going here in 5 seconds. Let's do this thing. Rock it up. Get your horns up. Let's have some fun. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, at KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. I'll tell you, tonight is a real treat because as we move closer to disclosure, the one person that I fully trust in this entire field is Samantha Mowat. And the reason why? Proof is in the pudding. Now, I met Samantha back in 2014. 25 minutes after meeting her, she walks me into a forest to see an extraterrestrial in the middle of the afternoon in the middle of British Columbia. Samantha, in my opinion, is one of the best kept secrets in ufology. She's a lifetime experiencer who has seen the good, the bad, and even the ugly when it comes to contact with extraterrestrials. With the world seeming to be moving ever closer to any sort of disclosure, it's going to be people like Samantha who are going to play a vital role in what happens within the future. We will need Samantha and others to help bridge that gap between those from the off-world and those right here on the planet. Her website, samanthamowat.ca. Samantha, my good friend, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Dave. I'm really excited to be here, and I think Hunter is too.
Excellent. And that's a beautiful kitty you have on your lap there.
Thank you.
The size of a dog. Where is your dog?
They're outside.
Oh, goodness. Mm-hmm. Samantha, we always have new listeners and people tuning on in who may not know your story, but you're a lifelong ET contactee. How has it been for you growing up as a contactee?
For the most part, it's been pretty easy to deal with, Dave. A lot of the beings I deal with are actually quite lovely, the majority of which I would place as fairly benevolent, with just the odd percentage, quarter or less, having more self-serving tendencies. But beyond that, everything is pretty good. The hardest part of being a contactee who's lifelong is watching your children have contact and trying to help them navigate the contact experience in this shifting world that we're going through, where contact is not as in the closet as it was when you and I were young.
Very true, very true. I mean, I know you're somebody who doesn't watch the news, who doesn't read the headlines. You stay off of social media, and you're someone who is very much in tune with your own world that not only you have created for yourself, but for the people who you love around you. Now, my question to you is, how have you been able to stay in tune with what's going on in the world around the whole UFO subject, while in the same breath trying to keep your distance so that way you don't get caught up in the havoc?
For the most part, I don't tend to read the headlines. I do have to do, of course, COVID check-ins every day because my kid's going to school. But when it comes to the whole ufology aspect, I know we are moving close to disclosure. I'm very excited by that. I do look forward to being a very normal thing that people can discuss around the dinner table, which is wonderful. But for the most part, I have people text me informing me when there are big things occurring. People like yourself and other friends of mine who do tend to follow the news and who are more involved and grounded in this day-to-day world than I am. However, between being a clairvoyant and being a contactee, I don't find it to be easy to handle that aspect as well as the 3D world and be able to keep that balance. Because when you read a headline and then you start to see a vision about something that happened, it can be overwhelming and it can make it so I have to postpone work. So it's not really worth my time to really read the news a whole bunch.
So for you, you were also highly intuitive
Mhm.
because of everything that's gone on. How have you been able to balance being highly intuitive to being, someone who's an ET contactee?
Well, it's because I am an ET contactee that I am highly intuitive. They follow bloodlines, and the bloodlines that are followed have more psychic abilities and psychic gifts because we are using them and utilizing them from the time not only that we're born, but you have a lot more telepathic communication with these beings, empathic understanding, clairsentient reading, where you know what they're energetically putting out. A lot of the communication that you have with the extraterrestrials and multidimensionals is not just the thought that's streaming into your mind in someone else's voice. You're also getting the impressions and the feelings that they're feeling. You're getting imagery coming forward with your clairvoyance alongside of various other psychic information, such as claircognizant downloads of information. And when you combine it all together, the more contact you have, the more psychic you get, which does make it very difficult to navigate this 3D world. Dave, you've seen me. I'm not good when it comes to jokes or sarcasm or stuff like that. A lot of things you've joked about in the past have gone right over my head, and you're like, oh God, you're not grounded at all.
No, you know what? But we can laugh at that. We can enjoy that part of you because everything is just so linear. It is so direct, and you don't really stray off the trails. A lot of people in this field, whether they're contactees or their minds are always wandering like mine are, we're always going off on different tangents. How have you been able to stay on the same trail?
A lot of meditation. A phenomenal amount of meditation in the last 20 years is the main thing that has kept me grounded. Also, as you've noticed, I tend to drop off the map for a while where I'll post a whole bunch of YouTube videos and get back to people with my readings right away and stuff like that. And then I'll drop off the map for 2 or 3 months and hide away from the world while I'm better grounding myself and connecting into everything that's going in my own world, processing my encounters, things of that nature, just helping me to get more grounded.
Being where you are in Canada, and I mean, it's up to you whether you want to give up your location. That's not my call. But for us being Canadian here and, kind of looking down on our neighbors to the south, trying to figure out what is going on, have you noticed a difference between over time American experiencers and Canadian experiencers, or even experiencers throughout the world comparatively to what you've gone through?
Well, I've had the great pleasure of actually being able to interact with a lot of people from Canada and the US who are contactees, as well as people on every continent now, which is wonderful, from every race, religion, and creed, economic and social background, which has made it a lot easier for me. A couple of years ago, that wasn't the case. I was mostly interacting with people who were from North America. And I've found that does not matter what race you are, there are all these different types of beings interacting. I've found that there are people who are having contact with everything from the reptilians to the Pleiadians to the Greys to the Mantis on every continent, all with varying degrees of contact. So what I mean when I say that is there doesn't seem to be any discrepancy between, okay, you're an American, therefore you're only dealing with the Greys and you're only dealing with green reptilians. That's not the case. These beings seem to be able to interact with humans that they find to be very that they have connections to, whether it's through soul contracts or previous incarnations with those humans, whether they're star seeds, or even because they're following the bloodline. Sometimes that's the reason why people get followed and connected with these beings, but it doesn't seem to matter if you're Canadian or American. There doesn't seem to be a lot of discrepancy in that matter.
Okay, so if there isn't that much of a discrepancy, what about people who live in not very militaristic type countries? Australia isn't a military country. There are many countries in Europe that aren't very militarized anymore. Africa,
Mhm.
is there a difference between those?
Yes, to an extent, you could expect to see the countries that aren't as militarized to have a much lower percentage of Mylab encounters, as well as probably the beings that are interacting with the military and working alongside of them, whether it's a shadow government or even the more clear and upfront government. So you can expect to see varieties of reptilians, in particular the black reptilians, the green reptilians, and the gray reptilians, as well as a few varieties of your standard 4 foot tall grays and 5 foot tall grays as well, being coming forward with people who are having a lot of the militarized type governments ruling their socio-economic background, their class system, or their country in this case, being the ones that are more likely to abduct them.
You are someone who has lived through this your entire life.
Mhm.
And this is something that hasn't gone away. It hasn't stopped. It may have taken pauses at points, but it's never really been inconsistent for you. Do you look at your life as one that you would like to change, or do you even know what normal is?
I don't think I have a good grasp what a normal life is. That wouldn't be fair of me to assume that I even have a good grasp of it. I grew up in a military family, so because of that, I've lived all over Canada. I'm I've always really been a little bit different from other people in the sense that I can read into them very easily. And no, I don't think I'd ever want to get rid of the ET contact aspect because I don't know who I am without that component. That's just as much a part of me as hockey is a part of your youth. And the way in which you really connecting towards sports and love rock music, that's just as much a part of you as this stuff is a part of me. I don't know who my identity is without it.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even watch hockey anymore. No, I'm teasing.
That's okay.
I'm teasing on that one. You know, free. Oh, by the way, I haven't even sent this to you. One of our listeners, Stetson John, he is a brilliant guy. He did this Photoshop of a Beatles cover.
Nice.
And he actually, I'm surprised he put my ugly mug in there, but he actually put you in there as well. So
Thanks.
I actually have to get you a picture of this. I'm going to try and bring it up here. I've got it somewhere on my computer. I'll try and bring it up for us to look at here. But I mean, it is amazing. It is
Sounds awesome.
amazing. So yeah, I mean, for you being part of the UFO community,
Yeah.
I always call you, and I know that I say this with all due respect, but I also say it out of frustration, not only for you, but for me. And I know you've had some frustration with this as well within this community. I'm curious. How have you reacted to, a lot of people are gaining to know your name, your reputation as someone who is very credible in this field, but we don't see your name being flashed on all of these television shows. We don't see your name being flashed on Contact in the Desert or all of these UFO conferences or alien
Mhm.
conferences that goes on. Why do you think that a lot of these events or television shows aren't giving you a call? Because personally, and I will say this with extreme bias, I think it's terrible. I really do.
Dave, it's okay. I also wasn't ready for that over the last several years. I've been very busy, not only moving to a completely different part of the province, establishing a life here. You know, a lot of the personal stuff that's been going on with me. Between all of the contact that I've had, Hunter, get down, please. I wouldn't have been able to handle having all that stuff happening at the same time on top of writing my book. Dave, I've been going through the last 35 years of my encounters, and I've been writing them out, getting a better idea of not only what a lot of the beings' intentions are, but how my contact with them has evolved and changed over the last few decades. And what that has given me is the opportunity to really get a clear understanding about what's going on. And if I had people calling me from Contact in the Desert a year and a half ago, or from Ancient Aliens or anything like that, I wouldn't have been able to do that at that time because I was so engrossed in what I've been doing. But now I'm getting ready to get to the next step of releasing my book, which I'm very excited for because it's more being done in a journal type entry to help people understand the evolution of contact for people from birth all the way through into middle age, which I think is wonderful.
You are someone who can help someone who is at the age of childhood to someone who's 80 years old understand their experiences, why it's happening, what is happening. How have you been able to kind of decipher what each and every person individually is going through?
Typically, before I talk to anybody, I invite their angels and their spirit guides in and ask for them to speak through me. As you've noticed on multiple occasions, I tend to switch from being me over to doing channeling, which is where I'm just having the beings speak through me the information that's necessary, that's needed to be known. And what that has provided me the ability to do is to give them the information they require to get their own healing, for their own release, and to give them clarity about what their contact has been like. Not only about whether they are a contactee in Mylab, someone going through MKUltra or things of that nature, but also to give them an idea about their starseed heritage. And so it's a little bit different when you're going through what I go through, because I can have somebody come forward and I can have 10 people in a week that are all a variety of gray that has incarnated down on the planet Earth, and they can be from 10 different places. And luckily, I've been given the great pleasure of getting a better understanding about the type of beings that are interacting with me, not only through the spirit guide aspect, but also come to see me in my astral form, in my physical form, and through psychic experiences. So, getting to know that has given me a better sense of clarity about the beings, and it also helps me to better assist the people who come forward to me.
For people who don't know you, when you say beings, what are you
Mhm.
talking about?
So when I say beings, I'm talking about extraterrestrials as well as multidimensionals. Many of the beings that people are categorizing as extraterrestrials are not, in fact, actually from this universe and this dimension. They are from parallel universes and dimensions. And I call them beings because it is very naive of us to look at many of these different beings that come to us and be like, wow, okay, that's reptilian, therefore that's bad. And when you actually talk to the beings, a lot of the reptilians don't actually call themselves reptilians. Some of them call themselves draconians, some of them call themselves other things. And it's easier just to categorize something as a being because that gives it a sense of, in a way, humanity. That's acknowledging them as an equal. If I were to say, oh, that gray or that Pleiadian or that mushroom being, people tend to have a stigma in their mind where they're making a hierarchy and categorization with this. And I wish to eliminate that sense of hierarchy as much as possible.
Okay, as you're going through that, a lot of people may not understand for somebody like you, and there are hundreds, if not thousands of you
Mhm.
on the planet.
Oh God, yes.
Okay. People just like you who have encountered numerous ET species. I always fret to ask you this question because I want people to judge you for your knowledge and not what their own, brain is going to be questioning them on, by saying, well,
Mhm.
I can't take this lady seriously. She says she's been in contact with so many different types of aliens, and I don't believe they're all out there. But for you, it's very real. You're the one
Mhm.
encountering these. You're the one documenting these. And I don't think a lot of people realize you document everything. You've
I
got
do.
books and books and books
About
of
30 behind me.
yeah. So for people who may not understand, how many
Mhm.
species have come out of their way to be in contact with you?
Over 50 at this point, if we're counting things from the various kinds of elementals, over to Sasquatch beings, over to mushroom beings, light beings, different kinds of angelic beings, numerous different types of spirit types, spirit guides, ghosts, so on and so forth. I've been in contact with a lot of different varieties, and there's absolutely nothing special about me, though I think the reason why they're coming forward is I don't approach them with any form of judgment when I do encounter them because of the clairvoyant aspect, the claircognizant aspect. A lot of them don't necessarily feel as misunderstood as they do with a lot of people. A lot of these beings will go see psychics. They do. They're more prone to us. It's just because they can better communicate with us. A lot of these beings, they don't necessarily speak with their mouths like you and I do. It can be very difficult for even reptilians to speak with their mouths. It's much easier for them to speak telepathically. And when you're looking at that component, I understand that it can be very difficult for someone to look at me and be like, why are you seeing all these beings and I haven't seen one and all I've seen is a UFO? But this is also part of my soul agreement and my contract in this lifetime is to normalize these beings. And that's why I have such a diverse amount of encounters with them, ranging everything from hybridization over towards the aspect of being healed, over towards teaching them, um, being taught by them how to do everything from flying on craft to different psychic abilities, over to encounters such as rape and abuse, is to learn how diverse these species are. Sorry, cat hit my face.
Not a problem. Not a problem. But okay, so with all these beings that have come in and
Mhm.
introduced themselves to you, how do they do it? How do they come up to you and say, "Hey, I want to meet Samantha Mowat"? I mean, you should be charging for autographs by now.
No, I'm not into that. I like hugs though. Now, a lot of the beings, it depends because you can have encounters based upon three ways. A psychic encounter, which is where you have things show up either in your third eye or with your physical eyes. So clairvoyants are able to see beyond the normal spectrum of light. That means we see things ranging from auras to spirits to, I'm sure you've all had periods of time where you've walked past a room and you see there's a being in the room and you turn to look and you're like, oh, I could have sworn someone's standing there and they're not there. over towards the more physical ones, such as physical encounters, where I have vortexes open up in my house, orbs coming down from the ceiling, having holes open up in my ceiling, my body floating up at night, having beings showing up around my house where I'll be doing dishes and I'll be like, okay, there's an Andromedan being over there, and I see it there for a moment, then it disappears. Stuff like that's pretty common as well as numerous encounters throughout my childhood and my teenagehood where I'd be going about my day-to-day life and seeing ET standing in the woods. Stuff like that is pretty normal. Over to the more difficult for people to comprehend, which is known as astral encounters. An astral encounter occurs when you leave your body at night, and it's a very conscious interaction where not only do you leave the body, but you are able to travel to different dimensions. I'm sure you've all had dreams at night where you found yourself in either a black and white place or somewhere that's very dark, very the earth at night type appearance. Looks very similar to here, but quite dangerous. A lot of violence and things. That would be the lower astral, up to the higher dimensions, where you can encounter beings that are not only crystalline, angelic, things of that nature are very common in the higher dimensional planes. And so there's actually 3 different ways that people can interact with these beings. The majority of mine do tend to be either astral or physical. I do have a lot of psychic ones that do come forward, but I do find the psychic ones I tend to be more dismissive of because I prefer the more interactive one-on-one approach rather than just talking to a being for 15 minutes or 2 hours for their client.
Okay. So
Mhm.
with these beings that have approached you, is it like for you they already know that you are out there? Because I
Mhm.
mean, it's like having this giant Kmart blue light special, flashing above you, basically saying, "Hey, this lady, she's connected. We can talk to this one."
Kind of, except it's more so the energetic vibrational frequency being emitted by the soul contained within this body, and that is what they're drawn to. The majority of these beings do not need to implant you in the way that our government would need to implant you to track you. They are able to find you by your unique energetic signature. And in my case, a lot of these beings, it doesn't matter if I'm on this planet and then I'm like, I could be going to bed at night and be like, okay, I'm reading my book, I'm spending 20 minutes, and I'll see a being walk in my room and I'll be like, okay, I'm probably gonna have an encounter shortly when I project out of my body. And then I'll project out of my body and I'll have a being that'll approach up to me. And sometimes I don't want to interact with them. And I'll project myself to a different place in time and space, which means you can project your body and your consciousness to a different star system or planet. And quite often, if these beings want to interact with you, they will follow you and keep trying to talk to you, even if you island jump or planet jump a few times. If they want to talk to you, they'll come back night and night again to come talk to you.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's kind of amazing when we go through that and we look at this entire connection. We have about 90 seconds before we're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Samantha Mowat is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Samantha, for you having contact, are
Mhm.
the beings, and will be a good lead into the next half hour with about a minute to go here. Are the beings contacting you that it's almost time?
To an extent, yes, a lot of them are preparing. They want to have as benevolent of a disclosure as possible. The majority of them are not wanting to do it in a way that's going to scare people. They're wanting to do it in a way that enlightens them and enables them to interact in a peaceful manner. A lot of humans are prone to fear and they want to move away from that fear energy as much as possible over towards a more calm and respectful energy. That's their main objective as they look at the disclosure component for humanity.
So, what are the aliens telling you?
That they're actually a little concerned that when they come forward, that humans are going to try to shoot them.
Of course, we're human. We
Not
always
all
shoot.
humans do that.
We always shoot first and ask questions later.
And that's the problem. They don't want that. They want for us to be able to see them, especially because some are so very different appearing than us. They look at us and they're like, oh my goodness, they're all so racist and afraid of everything. And they're like, I don't want to come forward to a human as a 12-foot tall mantis being showing up at someone's door and then have my head blown off because I'm small, like stopping to smell their sunflowers. So
I know
that's
that
what they're,
feeling.
yeah.
I know that feeling around you. You're dangerous that way. Tell you, if you ever want to see aliens, meet up with Samantha Mowat. She just like snaps her finger, boom, aliens, you got aliens, you got aliens. She's like Oprah when it comes to it, people. But Samantha is one of my best friends. She is amazing when it comes to ET contact. If there is people or questions that I have about this subject, she's the first I go to. She is that good. SamanthaMowat.ca is her website. We'll be back with more Samantha Mowat. What is going to go down with disclosure as we get into this coming up on the Mighty SOR? Stay tuned.
Nice. Sorry, I got a cat hair still on my face. I like your gnome. He's so freaking cute.
Yeah, this was made by one of my listeners.
Yeah.
The Michael Leger made this.
Aw.
And it says SOR on the bottom.
Of course.
And it's got the microphone.
Yeah.
And I think this is carved all out of one piece of wood.
Wow.
Yeah, and he sent it to me, and it's just absolutely amazing. And I figured, something that special, I got to keep right beside me here.
Of course.
And I think it looks good right there. And the Michael Leger has actually entered the chat room. He really has. So yeah, let's put him up there. There he is. There he is. Hi, Big Pickle. How are you? We got a bunch of people coming all in. And hi, Sovereign Farts. Are we going to be polite tonight? Let me know. If not, we'll make do. All right. Let's see here. Who else do we got? That's coming in late here. I think we're caught up. That took me forever to catch up tonight. Holy cow. We got flood. We're at 128 people watching live right now.
Nice. Very fun.
Yeah. Then we'll get another flood after hour 2.
All good. No worries.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, the Akinator, how are you? Welcome to our chat room. Let's see here. That Aussie sister, that new picture was drawn by one of our good friends, Dean, on Twitter. He's a fan, and he drew this for me last night, so we were able to get it through. Casual conversation with G&A. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio's chat room. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate you. Alex T, welcome to the show tonight. Very solid show. Thank you so much. The lovely and talented Cherie Ariano. I've got her bracelet on. I've added another bracelet. Yeah, she made this one for me. Oh, no, not that one. Sorry, this one. And it's just fantastic. Pretty. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Looks like obsidian on there from here. The black
that would be some wood, and there's one piece of lava rock there.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I wear it every day. And Magnus Magnuson, welcome back, buddy. Good to see you. Gorgeous Larry is here. Gorgeous Larry. And Sweet Donna C, how are you? Welcome to the channel. Who else? A lot of new faces tonight. DM, welcome back. And let's see here. Your biggest fan, Nicole Sakich, who is a research assistant to Grant Cameron.
Nice.
She is absolutely smack dab in love with your research.
Aw. And I want to gift her one of my books when they come out.
Yes. And I know she would love to have you on with her one day for an interview. She just absolutely thinks the world out of you. So I am going to say those kind words.
That's sweet.
Yes. Down the YouTube rabbit hole, welcome back. Good to see you. Golden Lee A, looking lovely tonight. Robert Two Crows, how you doing, my friend? How's the beard? Give us an update if you don't mind. We would appreciate that. Cedric Creech, how are you? Welcome to the channel. Hope you're enjoying yourself. Lockbeard and Robert Dixon, good to have you guys back. Millennium, nice comment. I could listen to Samantha tell stories of all her experiences forever. Looking forward to your book.
Thanks. So far, it's a couple 100 pages long. Like 4 or 5.
Cherie has confirmed it's obsidian and sandalwood.
I love sandalwood. Oh my God, the smell of sandalwood is so good. Good choice.
Yes, and I have this elixir here that I can rub on there, and it just makes it just a little bit like that, and puts them on the sandalwood and puts them on the lava rock there, and I'm going by what she taught me. Hey, Fapster, thank you so much for the super chat. All right, appreciate that, buddy. It was great talking to you after the show last night. It
Mm.
was. Steam Train Mark in Australia. How's tomorrow looking? Oh, you already have confirmed that Samantha and myself will be alive tomorrow. So
That's good.
we really appreciate that. Thank you, bud. Moosehead. That's a strong name.
I like
Cedric,
it.
good to see you. MacGyver Institute of Ninja Technology. Welcome to our channel. I love the name, dude. You know what? I hope you have a mullet like MacGyver. I really do. That would be awesome. Going to say a quick shout out to Science Bob, Murray, Andrew, Ed, and Fap for the super chats. It's a great way to support this show. We got a lot of new listeners in here tonight. We take commercial breaks because we are a live radio show. We got to time it on out, but do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Now we bring in Samantha Mowat, SamanthaMowat.ca. If you've never heard her speak, this is what real ET contact sounds like. Samantha is a lifelong experiencer. She's in the process of writing her first book on her experiences. And we're going to get into the whole movement here of disclosure from an alien point of view right now. Samantha, welcome back.
Hi, Dave, and thank you for calling it alien point of view. That's funny because I do feel more ET than human.
I know you do. I know you do. Uncle Dale with his power stash. How can one woman be so beautiful? There you go. I rarely ever seen you blush, and I think you blushed at that. You totally did. Totally did.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling that out. That's awesome.
I had to. I absolutely had to. All right, my friend. Let's get right into it. And let's talk about ET contact. Now, you have been talking to your guides as well as you're someone, for people just tuning in, who has ET contact very frequently in your life, almost on a daily basis, if not a daily basis.
3 to 5 times a week on average. If you're looking at it from a, not just like excluding the psychic stuff, we're just talking astral and physical, it's guaranteed to be about 3 to 5 times, with it being most prevalent around the time of ovulation, diminishing around the time of menstruation, from what I've noticed.
Why are they so interested?
TMI.
Why are they so interested in your cycle?
Oh, because I'm involved in a lot of hybridization programs. So for those of you who don't know what hybridization is, it's when people have contact from the time they're very, very small. It'll start when you're about a baby, and they determine which humans are going to be more fertile, who has good genetics, who doesn't have a lot of their cells being modified in a way that's actually detrimental. So as you know, we have a lot of environmental pollutants going on that actually make it very hard for a lot of people to get pregnant already, which is quite fascinating. And so what a lot of these ETs are doing is they're tracking people from the time they're very small, and they're doing numerous checkups on them from the time they're a baby all the way through puberty, going in through now, all the way to, it'll be an extended menopause that's much later. So for me, I don't expect to go through menopause until my 50s, rather than my 40s, like a lot of women, because of the way the ETs are utilizing my body. So what that means is that about 4 or 5 times a year, at least, I tend to get pregnant. So I get pregnant sometimes from ETs and sometimes from other humans that are contactees as well, where I interact with them on craft. And so I have hybrids that are ranging from Andromedan, gray, Lyran, cat Lyran that is, to reptilian, and a lot of various kinds in between, some of which are species that I don't even know what the heck to call them because they're unlike anything I've seen before. And this makes it really fascinating, but it also makes it hard because when you have contact like this, it actually shifts things for you. So many people around the world are going through hybridization. It's been going on for centuries. It's by no means new. It's not just the grays. It's actually a lot of different kinds. And when we look at that component, people think, oh, hybridization just started in like the 50s or the 60s. It's really new. But no, my bloodline's been tracked for at least the last couple hundred years from what I've been able to find out, which is really interesting to me. Not because of the whole like thinking bloodlines are special or any of that crap, but because I know what to expect, I can get a better idea about how things are going to be shifting for my kids and how things are going to be going for my grandkids. And to me, that's really important when we're looking at the hybridization aspect. If you notice that you're going through hybridization with the grays, that means you'll have part gray genetics. So because of this, it means I also have human genetics, Lyran genetics. It means I have reptilian genetics, gray genetics, Andromedan genetics. There's a lot of different genetics in place here because you have to have these genetics activated in order for these beings to be able to breed with you in a happy, healthy way. It's so interesting. I really like it. Sorry.
You went on a roll there. You went on a roll there. You weren't even speaking. I know you were. I've known you well enough now, where I know when you're channeling something, and I know when you're speaking from yourself. And that was a very good piece of channeling there. I will say that. I want to know right off the bat here. Because there's a lot of military stuff happening around UFOs. June 25th, the Pentagon is supposed to release what they know about UFOs. Are you surprised they are keeping extraterrestrials right out of the conversation right now?
No, it has to be done in a very soft disclosure way. I want you to think of it this way. We all have wonderful people in our lives who are still heavily programmed. They're still either very religious, still very intact with the concepts of separation. They have a hard time understanding a lot of the basics of what's going on. They're just starting to understand that everything is made of energy and that atoms are actually energy and that this universe can be created by some God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it. They have a hard time understanding the scientific and the religious thing actually being hand in hand, not realizing they're two sides of the same coin. And so when they're looking at the aspect of being like, hey, humanity, we're actually in touch with actually 100 and something different species, most people are going to want to have pass the Kool-Aid, Dave. They're not going to be able to handle it. They're going to be fear-based. They'll be going to their bunkers. You'll see riots in the streets, and that's not what they want to do. They want to make disclosure happen very safely. They're contacting ETs already about which groups are going to be coming forward. Don't think the Pentagon isn't being incredibly educated about it. They're doing their projection forward and back using various forms of remote viewing and various forms of psychic technologies to understand what the outcomes will be if they release things too quickly for people. It has to be done over multiple years in a very soft disclosure way. In the same way that if you're telling a child that you're going to be moving, you don't tell them on moving day as the movers are coming to your house. You tell them weeks ahead of time, hey buddy, we're going to be leaving soon. Just so you know, it's going to be a new town. It's going to be excited. You don't necessarily mention that they're going to have new friends and a new bed and all this other stuff because that's just too much for them to take in. So it has to be done in baby steps. I don't mean to be condescending. That's not how I mean it. So I hope it's not coming across that way. But we do have to look at most people and realize that they don't understand how complex the nature of reality is. They're not ready to understand that everything from the Vatican to our governments have been in touch with multiple different species of extraterrestrials and multidimensionals.
Okay, so I'm going to hit you up with some real big questions here, and I don't know if you're going to be able to answer them or not, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't.
Mhm.
I think I'm going to rephrase it this way. Over the last couple of months, I have been using the question and posting on Twitter the hashtag why now. After 70 years of cover up, after 70 years of embarrassing people, of causing people to go crazy, putting them in loony bins, and I realize that's not very politically correct, let's say psychiatric facilities, putting them in other places, people losing friends, people losing families, people losing jobs, their own sanity, credibility, suicide, everything that we want to talk about over the last 70 years of denial. This has happened to people, everyday people, and some very brilliant people. So my question to you is, why now? Why all of a sudden is this coming up? Because I think it's one of two things. Dr. Stephen Greer, whether we love him or we don't love him, believes that there's going to be an alien invasion of a false flag nature. I don't believe that. Or it's number two, contact has been made, which we know contact has happened a while ago, but contact was made and a date has been set. That's what I'm believing. So okay. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Well, from what the beings have explained to me, the reason why we're actually starting to move forward with the aspect of things along the lines of disclosure is because the majority of humanity is starting to wake up. We're starting to approach the aspect of critical mass over the next 20 years. In order for these governments to still maintain some sense of relevancy and control, they have to start doing a form of disclosure. Otherwise, people are going to uprising against them and they will lose control of everything that they've worked so hard to stay on top of. And that is the very basic aspect. There are some groups that want to do a form of false flag invasion. I full-heartedly agree with Greer in that aspect that that is a projection that they are considering doing. And this doesn't necessarily represent the good groups. These are groups that are trying to be more in control in a fear-mongering type of way, which I don't appreciate. Things being used such as multiple ET crafts over very large cities, electromagnetic propulsion devices being used to knock out our technology, things like that to invoke fear. ETs have warned me about that for a long time, and they've also warned me of what to do in the event of that happening. Now, the other aspect which you had talked about was the aspect when it comes to our governments. And you were talking about how, what's a good way to put this? How they want to move forward this disclosure and why now. You're right, why now? But it does come back to consciousness. Look at the amount of star seeds that are born in the 60s. That was a very limited amount compared to what is being born in the last 20 years. The amount of people whose souls are not from this planet, who are actually multidimensionals and extraterrestrials themselves, who have always felt alone within the world. They never truly felt like they fit in with their families, with their peer group, even within society as a whole, has really started to amp up because people are waking up and they're starting to remember. And so we do have a struggle going on within our governments that are trying to figure out, and when I say governments, I mean the shadow government, I mean the government that we all see and vote for, allegedly. And so when we see this, it's kind of like a toss-up going back and forth between who's going to maintain control. And that is the main thing, is trying to maintain some form of control over the awakening process.
Now, who's controlling the agenda? Is the agenda set by the government or the extraterrestrials themselves?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think anybody has the true answer for that. In my opinion, the majority of our governments are run by some not so nice groups of extraterrestrials who don't necessarily have our best interest at heart. When we discussed earlier about how part of what I'm here to do is to normalize not only extraterrestrials and multidimensionals, but to help people better understand the diversity within the various cultures of the ET races, we discussed reptilians in particular. And when we look at reptilians, we do have some very nasty ones that are in some of the bloodline families that are ruling them as a form of head of the family, as well as having their form of hybrids being in control. Like it or not, that is reality for the majority of the ruling nations on this planet. And so what we have happening now is there are a lot of ET groups that are looking at saying, okay, enough is enough. We can't have this keep going. This needs to shift and change. We need to kick these groups out and bring in a form of benevolent assistance for humanity. They don't want to step in and have us look at them as gods again, like we've done thousands of times before. They want to come forward with us still maintaining our own sense of sovereignty. And that's part of why when we look at the governments that are more benevolent and who are working with groups such as the Pentagon to try to bring a soft disclosure forward, baby steps one at a time, they want us to still maintain our sovereignty. And that's very important to them. They don't want us to just have them come forward and be like, okay, you make the decisions now. You're smarter than us. You better tech. What do we do? They don't want that.
See, I look at it from a different angle, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Samantha. But
Mhm.
the way I'm looking at it right now is the United States government. If we focus on them being the biggest superpower with the biggest military in the world, they have
Mhm.
a lot of secrets that we do not know, from ET crashes to alien bodies to the cover-ups, whether or not they know of Mylabs or MK Ultra or whatever that may be.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of things they need to cover up before any sort of disclosure. They got to make sure that there's a lot of files and a lot of programs that are sealed absolutely tight, because every program is going to be affected, in my opinion. Now, with that being said, I'm wondering if the reason why there is a now panic on this is because they want to start prepping for the timeline, and that gives them time to do the cover up and cover the agenda. Do you see that happening as well?
I agree with you about that actually, because when you look at this, if you start recognize the fact that we have extraterrestrials and multidimensionals coming forward, and okay, so they've been here, but how long have they actually been here? And then you're going to have multiple world governments contradicting, especially if they piss off one another. Like actually, we had files of these beings coming in the 50s or in the 1800s and things of that nature. And oh, look, here it is in our artwork from back in the Aztec times or Egyptian times. I'm sure everyone on the show has probably seen the pictures on the hieroglyphs in ancient Egypt of the Greys that have been there, as well as the Aztecs and the bird people and the various Lyran beings on the Egyptian temples as well. So if we look at it, these beings have been coming for a very long time. And when people start to put all this together, which they're going to start doing after disclosure starts to happen, people are going to be readdressing our history. The things that we've been taught is they're all going to start to be questioned at a rate that people do not understand at this time. And so a lot of these governments are trying to cover their ass, and I can't necessarily blame them. I don't agree with it, but I do understand how they're also wanting to not incite a panic. They're trying to do things in a way where if they do reveal too much about the programs that are going on and all the black budget projects, it could topple things on the inside, and they are trying to maintain some semblance of control.
Do you think that somewhere deep down in the government vaults, maybe 30, 40 stories below this earth, there is a booklet of potentially every name of a person that has been abducted over the years?
That's going to be some really big external hard drives, and they already have a really good idea. A lot of the contactees out there are Mylabs already, so that means military abductees. Now, I'm not saying that every contactee is a Mylab, but a very large majority of them are, especially ones who come from followed bloodlines or bloodlines that have been in the military themselves. And so let's say your father, when he's 20 years old, decides that he's going to go join the military. And let's say your dad would go fishing and then he would see a UFO and he didn't really think anything of it. He didn't really assume that he's a contact. He's like, okay, I just see these beings once in a while. Well, lo and behold, as your father is going through the aspects of training and everything else, and in that for several years, he will still have contact when he's either in a PMQ or when he's like a paramilitary quarter or when he's overseas or when he's at barracks and sleeping or things like that. And these beings will be noticed because you look at the governments, and in particular, if you go through the military aspect, you do have these various ETs that are walking around as well, sometimes in the underground bases and sometimes on craft and sometimes around bases or in town. And what happens is with these people, sometimes they'll notice them, but other times, a lot of people will not notice if a being is projecting the energy of a human in front of them. We've all had people where, for some reason, we couldn't stand their energy. We couldn't figure out what it was that was different about them. And what happens is quite often when you have an ET that's presenting into your mind the image of a human when they're not actually a human, they will come up to you and they will scan your DNA. They will come near you, they'll scan your energetic field. And what that means is they will go from the top of your head, quickly go down to the bottoms of your toes and back up again to get an idea about the vibrational frequency coming out of you. It's called an auric scan, and what that does is it can tell them if you have been in contact recently with a lot of other ETs or with any other ETs. Because when you have contact with extraterrestrials and multidimensionals, especially in a physical capacity, it is a disruption to your endocrine system. It's a disruption towards your energetic system. So when I have contact with ETs, especially really intense contact, where I find myself being gone for days or weeks and put back moments later around the time that I was taken, my entire auric system for a few days is more vibrant. It's bigger. It's like an aura, like this aura of a rainbow coming out of me. I'm more psychic. I'm more connected. I can hear my guides better, things of that nature. And so, what this does is when you look at this, a lot of people do not realize there's actually a very large portion of reptilians that are heavily involved with the military component, not just the American military, but also the Canadian as well as the British. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's within pretty much every reptilian or military order on the planet, especially you look at the way in which the Japanese military was for a very, very long time, not only exceptionally honor based, but also focused upon rigid structure.
With the agenda that's out there and the
Mhm.
agenda that they do have to cover their secrets, and I'm focusing on the US government here. How do
Mhm.
we actually know what they're doing is beneficial for humanity and ufology, or whether it's just another plan?
I wouldn't trust our governments as far as I could throw them, and I can't lift them up. They do have their best interests at heart first and foremost. We have to look at it that way. Now, I'm not trying to be rude when I say that. I do think that they I do think that they would like to be beneficial for us, but they are going to put themselves first. They always have, they always will. All it takes is looking at any history book to realize that we have been lied to time and time again. These are the same people that have been pegged us against each other from the beginning, with everything from sexism to racism to classism to the religious separation. And so it's not really in their best interest typically to keep us united at this time. And the reason why they didn't want us united was we were better able to control like that. But unfortunately for them, as we look at the way humanity is going, we're starting to work past all the racism that our great grandparents had, past the classism of not being able to marry within your social class. If you were third class, your kids are going to be third class. If you're first class, you have to stay with first class, so on and so forth. We don't have that anymore. And the same thing can be said with our religious beliefs and spiritual beliefs. And because of the awakening that's happening and the unification that's occurring within humanity, a threat from outside is one of the best ways to unify us. And that is part of what I do believe someone like Greer is trying to bring up with the false flag alien invasion. This is some of the, remember how we talked earlier about the government being divided into two groups at this time, one that wants to maintain control and one that wants to start integrating us better into the collective consciousness of the solar system, and to do it in such a way that's actually very beneficial for all. They are warring factions, and neither one has fully been set in stone as to how that's going to go. And so, yes, they are scrambling at this time.
Will the full truth ever come out? Whether it's Roswell, whether it's the Phoenix Lights, whether it's all of these alien bodies that have said to being recovered from crash sites. Do the
It's
aliens even
probably,
want that to come out?
some of the ETs would, but not all of them. And you have to remember, we're not going to learn the full truth about these things because it isn't in their best interest to put themselves in a bad light if they do show that information. Look at the aspect of Roswell. They can say, okay, we wanted to hide it because we didn't want to scare everybody. We didn't want to make you all fearful. We wanted to address the threat before we could really figure things out. I'm not sure if the Aztec culture worship reptilians. They did definitely have an aspect of focus upon them. I wouldn't necessarily say worship. To an extent you could, but I wouldn't necessarily see it that way. Idolize to an extent, yes. But when you look at the aspect of the Phoenix Lights, we know that that's ETs who are going around what our government wants, trying to make a very deliberate impression of, look, we're here. You guys can't deny us. We're here for hours. We're here. We're moving, unified. This is clearly not the way our human spacecraft works, not the way our aircraft works. And so stuff like that is very wonderful of the beings to do because they're trying to do a very gentle disclosure themselves without freaking people out. But no, our governments don't want to tell us exactly what's going on, Dave. They'd never tell us the full truth. It's not in their best interest.
Well, that's what it comes down to. Is we got just under 2 minutes here. What I was
Hmm.
wondering is, if there is that list
Yeah.
of people that are being taken.
They do have a very long list of a lot of people that are taken. And when those people have children, those children get taken. Don't fool yourselves and think that you can hide it. If you're a contactee and you're talking about to anyone, or if they know about it to any capacity, your kids will be taken.
What I'm saying though is the government, okay,
Mhm.
could be at one huge lawsuit,
Yeah.
right? If I put it this way, if I found out the Canadian government knew I was taken
Hmm.
and they had record of it, and
Hmm.
potentially my family members as well,
Hmm.
I'd take them to court. Absolutely.
But Dave, they'll throw your case out. What can you do about it? You're up against the government. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the former administration. We had nothing to do with that.
But what I'm saying though is I would I would look for legal means, legal reparations, because I want to know why was I chosen for this? I didn't volunteer for this. Never
Or did
mind
you?
never mind what we did previous to our incarnation or what we agreed to on
Hmm.
that. That's what I'm getting at. That's what
Hmm.
that's what I'm saying here.
You mean about the whole the U.S. government allowing for a certain portion of their group or their people to be taken by the
Yes.
Greys? Yeah, I understand that. I really do, and I can understand those people wanting to seek legal representation and trying to really get reparations for that. I can understand it, but I wouldn't hold your breath on it. I think they'll just throw it out and they'll find a way to just cover their ass, even though you are deserving of it, and even though you did not deserve to have the things happen to you that happened, you won't get the reparations you're hoping for. They'll change laws to make it so they're not going to be applicable.
I get you there. Samantha, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because We are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. And I'm telling you, we'll get to audience questions next. I know there is going to be a lot of them out there, and I will try and get them all through to Samantha so that way she can answer them if you're in one of our chat rooms or on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Let's make this happen. We're having a great night here on the Mighty SOR. Samantha Mowat's website is samanthamowat.ca. She's the best in the business, in my opinion, when it comes to ET contact. When she speaks, I know I listen. You should too. We'll be back with hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio next.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're clear. I'm just gonna run the puppies outside. I'll be right back.
Yeah, of course. I totally get that one. What would you like me to do in the meantime?
Oh, well, you can do a couple of things.
Sure.
A lot of times our guests, now that we're doing the video thing, will literally just chat with comments that are made. So we can go with that.
Of course.
All right, have some fun with them.
I will. See you in a few days.
There's 171 people watching you right now.
Not worried.
I know. You got her.
So what are you guys curious about? All I can see is what Sherry Arellano wrote down. It'll be interesting to see where things go. I know you're all very curious about what's going to happen with our government. I'm actually very curious too. That is something I'd probably make an exception with to try to understand. But based upon everything my guides have told me, pardon me, I wouldn't expect them to be very forthcoming with information. So what I do want for you to do instead is, as you're going through everything from the news, from social media to what you see in the paper to what you hear broadcast on the radio, is I want for you to take a moment every time you are listening to something or seeing something and really check in with yourself. I want for you to feel, does this resonate or doesn't this? And how you do that is you take a moment. I like to close my eyes. I take a deep breath. And I feel my body. And for me, when something doesn't resonate, I get this really odd sinking feeling in my gut. Or sometimes I get a sense of like anxiety or stress. And out of the odd possibility that they do attempt to move things towards a false flag alien invasion, I want for all of you to be able to stay very safe through this. And what that means is turning to your intuition and not allowing for that fear and anxiety energy to get the best of you. Because I know that you're all highly capable of doing that and being able to really turn into your intuition, especially if you want to start meeting many of the extraterrestrial multidimensional beings. Now, for some of you, I know that you're probably very curious, well, how can I have interactions with them? How can I really get to know them and meet them? And they're wonderful, and I feel connected to them from this star system or that star system or whatever. And so because of that, I want you to actually consider learning things either like how to develop your psychic abilities. There's dozens of videos on YouTube that you can check out from myself and other people, or just go buy a psychic development book. It's very easy. And just start practicing it a little bit every day, as well as things like meditation are great because they calm the mind and allow you to really get a good clear read. But also learning how to project out of your body with astral projection is a very wonderful way because it's something you do every night anyways when you go to sleep. And if you have conscious control over it, you can determine where you go, what you see and what you learn, which will enable you to talk to your angels, your spirit guides, your soul family, as well as meet many of the extraterrestrials and multidimensionals. It's pretty fun. I like it. It's taken me to some really interesting places though, especially when I'm going through some encounters and I will find like the weirdest things happen sometimes. Like I can be in my house and I can be either putting away laundry or I can be mopping my floors or feeding my dogs. And sometimes I'll see beings moving and they'll be like, sometimes it's out of the corner of your eye. And other times you'll see them kind of like just walking past you for like a flickering couple of seconds. And what this is you're in a relaxed state. So your clairvoyance comes forward. And I know you've all had this once or twice. And when you start to do stuff like that, you'll notice like, hey, I keep seeing the same type of beings over and over being near me. And so when you go to sleep at night, it takes you out of the dimension that you're in, which is when we're in our bodies and conscious and awake, and it helps to shift the frequency that you're at to being at one of the parallel dimensions. And the more you practice it, the better you get at going to lower dimensions from us and higher dimensions than us. So when I say lower dimensions, I'm talking about things like the lower astral, which for those of you who have had lots of nightmares, you might find yourself in like a dark place, or you might find yourself in a place that really does resemble Earth, or even somewhere similar, and that can be rather scary. And you'll find that the people there look like us, but they don't necessarily ever have daytime. They can be kind of out of sorts. That's when you project into lower astral. Whereas, oh, I agree, Heather, they are not ready for 100% disclosure. But that's okay, because I'm sure we'll get ready with time. It might take us another 50 years, but we can get there. And it's people like yourself who are exploring this concept that are helping. And if you really want to help humanity move forward towards disclosure in a more comfortable way, starting to be able to talk to the people in your life about it. And people sometimes think it's kind of weird that I will go through my life, and I have no problem talking to people about ETs or whatever. I could be at a pack meeting and I'll bring up like, oh, I had the worst encounter last night, or oh, I had the coolest encounter last night, type of thing. Even at like my kids' birthday parties, sometimes that's come up too. But if you start normalizing it, you don't have to talk with the ET component, but you could mention, hey, I saw this really cool video. It could be like, for instance, you could watch the Steven Spielberg series Taken. That's a really good one for people. Like, and watch it with someone who you're not sure what their stance is on ETs, and like, hey, so what do you think about that movie? Or even the movie Knowing with Nicolas Cage, because that shows what light beings look like and a lot of the angelic beings. And that was one of the most beautiful depictions of them and their light craft and crystalline craft that they have, because they do have craft that look like that. And there's a lot of soft disclosure already happening over the last 30 or 40 years, anyways, especially through our media. And so if you start sneaking those movies in and watching them with the people in your life, like your family and your friends, you can start to see where they're at, and you can.
I'll get you to hold on right there because we are going to go in about 15 seconds. Thank you, Cedric, Chad, Science Bob, Murray, Andrew, Ed, Fap, and Vinster for the awesome super chats. It's a great way to support what we do here on Spaced Out Radio. Here we go with hour number 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We want to remind you that we do have 6 terrestrial affiliates picking us up tonight, including we got Saga 960 in Mississauga, Ontario. So hello to everyone tuning on in there. We also want to say hello to our digital stations that are broadcasting us as well. Hello to all of you, including Revolution Radio and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Octothorpe. Octothorpe is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with ET contactee Samantha Mowat, and we are talking all things disclosure, UFOs, aliens. Let's get to it right now. Her website, SamanthaMowat.com. Sam, I got a ton of questions for you from the audience, and we're going to start off with Terrafim here. And Terrafim is saying, did you not see the movie Independence Day and what the aliens did?
Yeah, I did. And I also thought that was interesting because when I watched the movie Independence Day, I thought how terribly sad that those people were stupid enough to go to the top of the building when they don't know what those ET's intentions are. What I talked to a lot of you about is using your intuition to determine whether something feels safe to you and whether it doesn't. Like we talked about during the break, the aspect of taking a moment. Does something resonate with me? Does something not? If you're told from anybody, whether it's your government or your friends or your family, that you should do do something or shouldn't do something, it's always important to stop, take a moment and feel, does this resonate? Should I be doing with this? And as we talked about the aspect of disclosure, and when we look at the different beings and really determining, is this being safe? Okay, I've got a 12-foot tall mantis in front of me, or I've got an 8-foot tall reptilian in front of me. Oh my God, I'm so scared. They look so different from me. I'm terrified. But you have to stop and go into that calm, still place in yourself and be like, okay, does this being actually intend me harm? And if the humans in that movie had actually taken a moment to meditate and feel it out, they would have realized that those beings didn't have good intentions towards them. And that's the most important thing you could do when meeting any extraterrestrial, multidimensional being is trust your intuition. Does it feel like they're safe for me or doesn't it?
All right, let's move on here. And this one comes from Ozzy in Australia. Did I hear you take martial arts?
I do. I take karate. It's really fun. You should try
Maybe.
it. You'd love it, Dave. It's awesome. It's great for dealing with stress, especially PTSD.
Steve in Australia is asking, have you made contact with any ET in Australia, as we have a lot of action down this way?
None of them have told me that they're from Australia, and I haven't had the pleasure of visiting your continent yet, but I certainly hope to do so. And when I do, I'd love to go see Mary Broadwell in particular. I'm sure
Set.
may the beings, sorry, that I've met or have been to Australia, though.
All right, Cedric is asking, how do you enhance your psychic abilities?
Oh, that's easy. So one of the easiest ways you can enhance your psychic abilities is through the modification of your diet. So that means cutting down the amount of processed food you eat, decreasing the amount of drugs and alcohol used to being preferably at zero, doing meditation, as well as some very basic things such as learning how to calm and quiet your mind. Most people that are everyone's psychic, but it's a matter of what kind of psychic are you? Are you a more visual person? Are you a more auditory person? But by determining what kind of person you are, like, think about your memories when you think about a very special event. Do you see pictures play in your head? Do you have the feelings of the event go forward in your body? Do you hear the words of what people said to you? By noticing those things about yourself, you can better recognize what type of psychic you are, and from there, like, really work on those type of psychic abilities in particular.
All right. Linda is asking, do you think there is a God, or is it ET that has made us?
There is some sort of being that a lot of the extraterrestrials and multidimensionals don't worship but acknowledge, and they refer to it as source. So this is the form of consciousness that is interconnected throughout all things, from plants to animals, from them to us. I don't see ETs as necessarily having made us, because humanity isn't actually from this planet. We were seeded on this planet and we have been modified while on this planet. So no, I don't believe they made us, but they have modified us.
All right, moving on here. And let's get to Hallmark Corey's question, who actually pulled himself away from watching the Hallmark channel to tune on in tonight. We appreciate that, Corey. Do extraterrestrials know about Sasquatch? If so, what
Yes.
are they?
Um, do you mean what are Sasquatch? Sasquatch are a form of multidimensional being that are found on this planet and off this planet as well. They are able to go between the dimensions using their psychic abilities to be able to open up vortexes and portals. They're also able to make themselves invisible, and that's part of why they're so good at cloaking. When I had a very frustrating reptilian encounter a few years ago, I saw Sasquatch when I was in that encounter, and the being with the Sasquatch itself was very aware of the reptilians, and the reptilians seemed to be quite aware of it. And there are numerous accounts of reptilians having Sasquatch working for them, but not necessarily in a way that's a symbiotic relationship. It looks like they're being forced to work for them.
All right, let's get to Big Pickle's question. What about those people who still don't acknowledge there is anything there? They watch it, they see it, but it does not register with them. It's like they're looking right past it.
You have to look at those people and their level of cognitive dissonance. And although it's very frustrating to interact with those people and to have them in our lives, sometimes we have to allow for people to deal with things in their own time. These are the same people who aren't comfortable with change, and they aren't really at the point where they're ready to acknowledge these things. Perhaps mentally they could not handle if they were to understand the full depth of what's going on with the extraterrestrials and multidimensionals. So it might be best for them at this time to not really process it. They might have a mental breakdown.
Nicole is asking, Samantha, can you speak more on where they come from, specifically how they've been here or coming since the beginning of time?
Sure, a lot of the different beings that I interact with. So let's start with a very basic one, a very easy one. Let's start with the Greys. The majority of the Greys that I interact with are from the Orion star system. In particular, one of my favorite hybrid children is from the Orion star system. So the Orion Greys are about 5.5 feet tall. They are thin bodied. They do look like a very typical Grey, which is all right. They don't typically wear clothes. However, some of the other Greys that I interact with are from other star systems. Some of them do claim to be from not Draconis, that's not quite right, but they do tend to claim they're from the same area as a lot of the other reptilian races because they've been seeded all over the place. When you look at the aspect of the ETs, I know that the Pleiadians have told me that they're from the Pleiades. I have met cat beings that have told me they're from Lyra, but they haven't told me which star in that star system exactly that they're from, which makes it a bit more difficult. When you meet a lot of these beings, you honestly don't think to ask them, "Hey, black reptilian, so where are you from exactly? What place are you from?" You're like, "Okay, why do I have a large male black reptilian following me from place to place? Why are you showing up in my bedroom while I'm sick? Why are you taking me outside of my house?" You don't typically think to ask them a lot of those things. I did ask the small tan beings that I work with, as well as the tall tan beings that look like a variety of gray, very similar, very naked, where they're from, and they did show me the Andromeda star system, and they did tell me Andromeda, and that's part of how I knew they were that. But if you look at the way in which I describe a lot of the beings, I typically describe them by their appearance, which is a very kindergartenish type way of explaining it, but that's the easiest way that I could do it. Now, when we look at the other beings, there are so many different types of beings that I work with, but I don't actually know where they come from because I'm sorry, I just don't think to ask them.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Let's continue on here with questions from our audience as we continue on. Cedric is saying, zero drugs. What about using plant medicines for psychic abilities or
That's
astral
fine.
travel?
You can use them, but you have to be careful, put up your energy protection. When I say don't use drugs, I'm trying to keep you away from things like crystal meth, ecstasy, things like that that are chemically based. The reason why I bring that up is those actually really throw off your auric field and it makes it discordant. If you're using things, especially harder drugs like crystal meth, you're more prone towards energy attachments, jinn problems, as well as the negative reptilians that feed off of loosh coming forward and messing with you. Whereas if you're using things like ayahuasca, marijuana, and shrooms, you're less likely to have that. In fact, many people use it in sacred ceremonies to help amplify their psychic abilities. I don't consider those to be drugs. I consider those to be sacred medicines and only used under appropriate forms and really important and ceremonial type ways. I don't agree with the abuse of those to access your psychic abilities. I agree with doing it in a way that's safe and protected. Because most of the times, if you're doing things like that, you'll have someone guiding you through putting up energy protection and keeping you safe from being able to be latching onto your aura.
All right. Carol is asking, do you think there is a connection between Rh negative blood and aliens?
Yeah, to an extent, I do. When I've looked at the majority of the orchestrated relationships that I've had, an orchestrated relationship is someone that I've met on craft from the time I was very, very small, up through adulthood that I've bred with various beings. So, for instance, I've noticed that I have at least 8 different men that have come into my life who I'd met on craft for years before he and I started breeding together to see if we'd make happy, healthy hybrids. And one thing I've found is that 2/3 of which do appear to have the negative blood types. Some do have the positive blood type. So just because you have positive blood type, it doesn't mean you won't be a contactee and that you're not a starseed and stuff like that. That's ridiculous. But there does seem to be a very strong link between the two. And in particular, when I look at the aspect to do with who wants me to breed with who, sometimes I have had people that are, for instance, B negative, be moved out because they're like, yeah, the hybrids weren't healthy enough. We'll try you with pardon, I mix that up. I've had a B positive be replaced with a B negative to see if the B negative would be better for my hybrids, and the B negative was.
All right, let's get to another question. Scott Brown is asking, Samantha, have you ever thought of setting up a motion sensor cam to
Mhm.
catch your encounters?
I have. I've actually had cameras around my house in the last couple of years. And the one thing I have found is that those beings are very good at turning off technology. The one thing you'll find if you do have cameras, you can have them at your front door, your back door, your sliding glass door, facing your bedroom, and you'll notice that for some reason the bloody things turn off quite often. Or you'll have it where your night light will turn on and it'll throw it off, or you'll have the motion sensor light that's outside as well throw it off, or your neighbors will decide that they're going to install lights and that'll throw it off. They seem to be very good, these beings, at disrupting the tech.
All right, let's move on here. The Michael Leger is asking, do any species live here on Earth or sea-based aliens?
Yeah, quite a few of them live on Earth. We have humans that are living in the Earth in particular. When One thing that you'll find is that if you talk to some of the ETs that are humanoid in particular, they will tell you at first that they are Pleiadians, when in actuality, some of these are actually inner Earth humans that are claiming to be Pleiadian because they don't want people to be coming into the planet looking for them. As well, we do have greys that are living on the planet, some in underground bases, as well as numerous types of reptilians that are living on base as well. So when I say base, I mean deep underground military base, as well as the secret military bases that you can find around as well.
Nicola is asking, is the universe a living, conscious thing?
Yes, very much so. We're all very connected to it. And that's part of why sometimes we have moments of deja vu, and why you'll go to a location, you'll suddenly get a vision of what happened there 10 years ago or 50 years ago or 100 years ago. It's because you're tapping into that energetic field that's running through all of us at once.
All right, let's move on here. Sovereign is wondering if you know where the night crawlers are from.
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
All
If you
right.
could show me an image, I might recognize them, but I don't even recognize the term nightcrawler. What is a nightcrawler?
Neither do I. Neither
Okay.
do I. All right. Let's move on here
Mhm.
and continue on. Big Pickle is wondering what you think of Skinwalker Ranch and what do you think the significance of Skinwalker Ranch is?
I have heard of Skinwalker Ranch thanks to my mother and her boyfriend. They were actually putting on a documentary of it last time I was on the island, so thank goodness I understand this one. Um, Based upon everything that I had come to understand and observe from what I noticed in that documentary, is that the Skinwalker Ranch does seem to have numerous portals that seem to be open there. I did find it disheartening that they had a lot of animals that were attacked, but if you look at it, if you're having these portals opening where ETs are sometimes walking through, other animals can come through as well. And that's one thing people don't realize when you see things like vortexes opening up, or these rifts within the dimensions where it's interconnecting one place to another, is that an ET can open it. And if they don't know what they're doing, or if we open one with our consciousness, we can let things walk through like a doorway, and that can be very dangerous for ourselves as well as others. I do find it interesting that the Skinwalker Ranch did have a lot of ET activity overhead as well, and that the people didn't like going towards the ridge line, if I'm not mistaken. But I think that was a lot more ET activity up in that region, and they may have had ETs that put energetic force fields up saying, don't walk this way, don't come this way. And that could also result in the memory lapses that the people have, or they would have periods where they didn't quite remember what was going on in one specific area or another. I think that also accounts for the really weird beings that they had coming forward and attacking their flock, if I'm not mistaken, was these dimensions being partially open, and that's why it's kind of unrecognizable what type of being is attacking them.
Drew wants to know, is your cat part of your channeling protocols?
No, I have 3 cats, and they're just very friendly.
All right.
Cats are good at protecting you, though, because cats are seen as protectors of the underworld to help keep dimensional beings away.
Kira is wondering, what is the highest dimensional being you have come in contact with? Please describe the interaction.
Oh, sure. So I think it's either light beings or crystal beings. So light beings are one of my favorite types of beings in existence. As we talked about during the break, I believe they're often shown in things like the movie Knowing, which they're beings that are comprised of pure energetic mass. So when you actually look at a lot of the ascended masters, from the archangels to beings like that, and you ask them, what do you actually look like? What's your true form? Can you show me what they're really like? Don't show me the facade you think I want to see. Can you show me what you prefer to be viewed as? A lot of them will show you themselves as bodies of light. And I've met them on numerous occasions. One of the first times was in my dad's greenhouse when I was in my early 20s. And when I saw it, it was quite beautiful because the being actually came up to me when I was doing this really nice channeling. I was trying to send Reiki energy towards my herbs. I was so excited for them. I'm like, yeah, rosemary and lavender and thyme. Come on, all these cute ones, trying to get them all like big and happy and healthy. And this being came forward. It was quite bright, quite light, and it actually kind of enveloped my entire space. So I forgot about one time before that, when I was in Fort Mac I was working in Fort McMurray forever ago as a server at Moxie's, and I always did yoga before I went to work, because otherwise I was way too scattered and all over the place. And I had just done a really intense hour-long yoga session and was doing ujjayi breathing, which is where you're like heating up your body process, and you're taking it so that you're expanding your consciousness. You're connecting into the innermost part of you and you're pushing all that energy out. And what that does is it actually shifts your vibration around. And when I did this, I had one of these beautiful light beings come forward towards me and I could see it as clear as day and it enveloped my entire vision. And that was one of my favorite beings that I've seen. They often get mistaken as angels and they have energy coming out of them that looks like wings, but it's not quite wings. They don't need it for flying. But when you see them kind of in that float, they're more of like a float than a fly type thing. They're quite tall. They do look like they're well over 7 or 8 feet tall. They're very beautiful, genderless. They are just the most incredible beings. I see them on and off, and I really like it. The other one is crystal beings. Crystal beings are actually comprised of crystalline essence. I would say they're probably below the light beings, but they're very, very similar. They seem to be comprised of planetary essence, and they're like a healer and an energetic protector. It's quite interesting.
Cherie is asking, do you consider yourself a gray hybrid?
I actually consider myself a hybrid period because I have a ton of different beings that have claimed me. Everything from Pleiadians to reptilians to Lyrans to Greys.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Mr. Cowley, welcome back to the show, is saying this is very interesting. How many do you think it will be time the friends will show themselves to the rest of the world?
Probably over the next 50 years, you'll see you're not going to see everybody at once. You're not going to wake up one day and see a mantis chewing on the sunflower in your garden. You're not going to see a family of hybrids walking down the street very quickly holding hands. You're not going to see them quite in that manner. They're going to very slowly acclimatize themselves and make it known to humanity. We already have ETs living amongst us. That's something I've made no secret whatsoever. But when you look at how the aspect of them actually interacting with us, it's going to be a slow process. You will see them probably having some form of official first contact, which isn't actually going to be the first contact. We've had it already quite a few times. And you're most likely to see either a variety of gray or a variety of humanoid coming forward. I don't think the first beings that are going to step up to the plate are going to be acknowledging themselves to be, hey, we're Draconis reptilians, or hey, we're light beings, or mushroom beings. You're not going to see ones that are quite that different right away. You're going to have ones that we've already had kind of exposed to us. Go ahead, Dave.
Let's get a couple more questions in. We got 3.5 minutes before we have to go to break. At the bottom of the hour, let's go to Drew's question. What are your thoughts about duality outside the 3D vibrational field?
There does seem to be some duality still present in 4D. It does appear to be less extreme than that of 3D from what I've noticed. They don't seem to have as clear and distinct of masculine versus feminine, good versus bad, light versus dark occurring within that. However, they do still appear to have some minor form of polarization similar to what we have. For instance, when you look at the beings such as the Pleiadians and the Aldebaranians, they have good and bad amongst their race as well. They still have some that are self-serving. They are more psychically inclined. They are more psychically capable, and they do have better technology than us. However, they do still have some within their own races that are still partially self-serving. They may be on the whole more towards the unity consciousness, more interconnected in that way, but they do still have beings within their own consciousness and their own species that do have contracts with beings that aren't as kind. For instance, I have seen a Pleiadian sabotage other Pleiadians, and it wasn't a nice one. It was one that was actually working against them, and his consciousness did appear to be more diminished than the others. So we do see this aspect of good and bad, because if you look at the Greys are of a higher dimension than us as well. And even though people are like, oh, they're Greys, they're not as good, which is silly, they think of them as being lesser than because they don't speak with their mouths, they don't have the same creative expression we do. And they, although of a higher dimension, they do still have a duality aspect, some that have more consciousness and emotions, and others that are more, in one sense, robotic-like, that are more numb to it. And so even as you go up the dimensions, you still see a polarization within them. Even the highest level dimensions that we get towards, look at the angelic beings that we all know, which are akin to be more light beings. We have good and bad within them as well. So please do not think that just because you reach 4D, 5D, 6D, that all the pains and problems fade away, because they don't. You're met with a different set of obstacles to deal with. It's more complex than we understand.
All right, Stephanie is asking, do you think aliens are going to become more bold and start the bridge of communication with the world? Maybe that's the reason why the government are saying they are real?
Yes, I do. I definitely think, Stephanie, that's the reason that we have this happening at this time, is the amount of people having contact, whether it's through processes like what Greer is doing, where we're having the CE whatever protocols taking place, or people just naturally going about their day-to-day life and seeing UFOs in the sky, as well as the aspect of ETs starting to come forward through, look at the way a lot of psychics are now. If you talk to most psychics, almost all of us have seen extraterrestrials of one form or another. They may not necessarily recognize them as extraterrestrials, but if you roughly describe to them what a gray is, what a reptilian is, what a mantis is, they're like, oh yeah, I've seen that. They may not know the term, but if you talk to them about it, these beings are making it more normalized. And the same thing is being said with these children that are coming in. They're exceptionally more psychic. A lot of them are starting to remember their contact from the time they're born and carry that forward. And a lot of their parents are waking up because their children are awake. And so it's really interesting how these ETs are helping to wake up families by bringing in children that are wide awake and helping them to remember, oh my goodness, our family has been having contact for a long time, because we recognize that this child is having contact, and we're like, okay, if the kid's having this, what did I have happen? And it kind of makes that thought train move forward. It's interesting.
All right, Samantha, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. The questions are coming in fast and furious. I'm trying to get to them all, and I'm losing the battle right now, to be absolutely honest. But that's okay. We got Samantha Mowat for another 1 hour here on Spaced Out Radio. Her website is samanthamowat.com, or pardon me, .ca. If you want to check it on out, I highly suggest you do. Your questions with Samantha. We continue on the disclosure movement right after this on Spaced Out Radio. All right.
Good job, Dave.
Hi, AZ B-Boy. How you doing, man? Welcome back to the channel. I'm going to get caught up here with everybody here. Opa, to you, Greco. What's happening? Where you been hiding? How's the restaurant? Where's our baklava? Please let us know. Jeremy Jones, I suddenly like the color red, and I'm not talking about Dave's shirt. Thank you. Thank you. And we appreciate that. I'll take the insult right there while Samantha takes the compliment. Let's see here. All right, there's Sonia's question. You know what? I'll get to a few of these questions during the break here, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
That way we can catch up a little bit, if you're cool with that, Sam. Okay. Let's do that. Cedric is Kim is asking, is Dave a hybrid?
To an extent, yeah, definitely. Dave has a lot of ET DNA to him. Dave, look at you. You obviously have. Okay, fine.
No, I'm teasing. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you obviously have components of Anunnaki, and you look at your build. You don't have the delicateness of me, which is more prevalent in not only the Palladian type, but also in the extraterrestrial grays. You have more of the ability to put on muscle and bulk, and that's very commonly found within Anunnakis in particular. A lot of people within ufology, especially if you start looking, then you can start to recognize the different hybridization components to them. And the things I want you to look for is you'll find that within certain people, you'll see very strong reptilian brows. So when I say reptilian brows, you're going to want to look here at people. For people who have very strong brow lines, very common in reptilians, same with like these more square jaw in them as well. And people that tend to have like very broad shoulders and very like athletic forms, very much so found in reptilians. Whereas more petite people, you have to look at them and go, okay, do you have like a gymnast body? In which case, where it's more of like that svelte, more soccer player type runner's body, you're going to see more commonly within Palladians as well as grays. Grays tend to be very tall and lanky, or very short and lanky, very interesting. And the same thing can be said when you look at some of the other human beings. Have you ever looked at somebody and looked at their eyes and went, wow, you have cat eyes? Like you have really like big expressive eyes, and those are very commonly found in Lyran hybrids, which is so cool. Whereas if you look at some of the other people, have you ever looked at someone, people that are more, oh, how can I explain this? Like when you meet people that are like, think of your wife. Think of the lovely Mrs. SOR, total earth angel, from the body to the way her energy is. Everything about that screams earth angel incarnate. And you can tell because they have the very sweet, gentle faces going on. They have the very, yes, Dave is definitely a hybrid. They have very gentle energy to them, very soft, sweet bodies. You're definitely a hybrid, Dave. That's funny.
Thank you.
But people think hybrid and they just think gray, and that's silly. Go ahead.
Tristan is asking, do you have a book? You don't have one yet, but it's coming.
End of the year.
All right. Cedric, can God particle be achieved through meditation?
That's a good question. I honestly think it could be, but probably not by anybody in this physical form. The beings that are much more ascended and more psychically capable, I think would be able to do that. For instance, the light beings, the angelic beings, the crystal beings, definitely us, not as much. We're sporadic little monkeys with their little brains on acid who can't stay focused for 2 minutes. Yes, I have. I've seen smoky beings that are black, that are gray, some that are white. Um, the ones that I've seen that are black have typically been a little more frustrating. They tend to be more void of color. They've been a little bit harassing towards my children as well as myself. Some that are gray, like it's almost like a gray mist that comes forward. They've been all right. They typically have found have been near dead people in particular. The ones that have been white and kind of smoky, they've come forward in particular when I've been at home and hanging with my children and watching things like Frozen, and they'll come in and they have like a very warm vibration, very nice, doesn't feel negative. They actually feel very kind. And you have to remember a lot of the ones that we look at, like they could be things that we think are void of color, like black or white. And in their dimensions, they actually have color. We just don't perceive them as well. So please don't look at color and take it as any form of um, hierarchy or indication of goodness or badness.
All right.
Mhm.
Eamon, are we going to get extended life or age regressed?
Us not as easily, because the majority of us don't actually have access to the technology provided by the extraterrestrials and multidimensionals to have access to that. Most of you are not feeding off of Lucia. I'm certainly not feeding off the source consciousness vibration, which actually allows us to have continual cell regeneration going on. And for those of us who are lucky enough to have the extraterrestrials and multidimensionals heal our body when we're going through really traumatic things or really intense sicknesses, be it cancers, diabetes, things of that nature, we do tend to look a little bit younger for our age because of it. But in age regression, like we're hoping, probably not as easily.
All right. We got less than a minute here. Jeff's quick
Mhm.
question. Should we worry about alien presence on the dark side of the moon?
It's already there, Jeff. They've been there for a very long time. It hasn't been much of a problem for you yet, so I wouldn't stress about it.
All right. Good call. All right. Big thanks to Science Bob, Murray, Andrew, Ed, Fapster, Vin, Chad, Cedric, and Horror Realm for the amazing super chats. Really do appreciate you taking the time to join us. Here we go with Samantha Mowat right now. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Really appreciate you taking the time. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Samantha Mowat. We're talking all things to do with UFOs, disclosure, ET contact, and we're running with audience questions right now, and they are a ton of them. A ton. Samantha's website, samanthamowat.ca. Samantha, welcome back.
Hi, Dave. Thank you.
All right, over in our Spreaker chat room, Jeff is asking, do you believe humans are indigenous to planet Earth?
No, not at all. And the reason why I don't believe humanity is indigenous to planet Earth is when I look at a lot of my memories that have been given to me from everything from the extraterrestrials I work with to my past life memories to the ones that the angels and ascended masters have brought forward for me, as well as the spirit guides I work with. They have shown me humanity originally starting in the cradle of Lyra, which means in the Lyra civilization, and branching out from there when Lyra was destroyed. So no, I don't think we're from here.
All right, 5,900 Buck is asking, is Earth a prison planet or an amusement park?
That really depends upon your perspective. I don't necessarily view it as a prison. I don't think humanity has the degree of freedom that they're meant to, though. I don't fully agree with the concept of it being a school either. I do believe that a lot of human souls or souls in general can come down here and be trapped within the net, so to speak. And it does take them awakening, which is what we're doing now, and to break out of that net. And so it could be perceived as a prison, but I do think that's a very restricting perspective to view it as. I do believe that many of us, such as yourselves, are awake, and because of that, we get better given the opportunity to come and go outside of this planet when we die.
All right. Sonia is asking, are fairy and elf light beings, or are they
No.
something else?
Oh, I love that question, Sonia. Fairies are some of my favorite beings. I haven't met elf beings per se, but I have met quite a few fairies, and they are a form of elemental. So an elemental is it's a higher vibrational being that is actually very connected towards the earth. They're wonderful. They have a very light, harmonizing vibration typically. And what they are is they are almost under the classification of something like angel or crystal being or light being. They're very similar, but they're not the same. I want you to think of it this way. Light beings are comprised of just light, whereas fairies still have physical bodies, so they're a couple dimensions below it. But what they do is they're really good for connection to plants, animals. If you really want to connect to the fairies, oh my goodness, plants and flowers, girl, you'll have like them all over the place. They love humans that have an appreciation for nature.
That's true. That's
Mhm.
true. I see them every summer sitting along our back fence. I do.
I see them as little like light bodies. They're really beautiful and have these really radiant auras coming out.
Greco is asking, did you have clean underwear on during your abduction? How about afterwards?
I love that. That is hilarious. And yes, actually, what's really funny is when I know I'm going to be abducted, this is going to sound so stupid to some of you. If I feel the craft above my house, or if I feel myself like I know beings walking around, or if my guides tell me I'm going to have an abduction, I put on abduction pajamas. And what that means is I make sure I'm wearing something that's not a silk nightie, or not going to bed naked, or not just sleeping in something partially like transparent, because you never know who the heck you're going to encounter on craft, for one. But two, yes, my underwear are clean unless they take a baby out of me. So with my hybridization, sometimes after I'm put back, I will find myself bleeding afterwards. It's similar to like after giving birth or after having an abortion or a miscarriage, how you'll have matter coming out, blood matter, and so on and so forth afterwards. So that's kind of a nasty way to explain it, but that does happen from time to time as well.
All right, moving on here. Cherie is asking, would you say all beings are a mix of good and bad?
Yes, I would. I would say virtually everything that you could possibly interact with could be a mixture of good or bad. It depends on your connection to it. So, for instance, if you have soul ties with something such as a jinn, so let's say in a previous incarnation, you were a magic practitioner in the Middle East and you worked with jinn, you could have developed a bond or a contract with one of them that had it be of assistance to you in your lineage and follow you throughout your multiple incarnations. Now, typically, jinn are mischievous, not loving of humanity, and very malevolent towards us. Whereas if you have this connection to it, it will treat you with respect in a form of acknowledgement and not really put you through the same hell it would put other people through. And the same thing can be said with all these other types of beings. If you are someone who is, let's say, an Arcturian that is incarnated on planet Earth, it may choose to be very love-based and respectful towards you, very affectionate, very playful. Whereas if you are someone that it's just encountering for the first time, it has no connection towards you, it might be very cold and standoffish, which could be perceived as being evil. So our perception of good and evil, it's it's a very 3D perspective, and I have it. We all do. It's just naturally within us.
All right, Kim is asking, what are mantis people like?
Oh, I love them. The majority of mantises that I have met have been female. I've met some that are brown, some that are like this beautiful emerald green color, the majority of which have been very good for healing. I started interacting with the mantis beings because of my son. He had a tremendous amount of allergies when he was born. He was allergic to like, oh goodness, shellfish, fish, wheat, dairy, you name it. That kid was pretty much allergic to it. And the mantis would come whenever my son was having an allergic reaction. Now, this wasn't every single time, but when he had a really bad one, so let's say he were to it wouldn't just be like cross contamination. Let's say somebody accidentally put normal flour in something instead of like gluten free flour. He would have like these unbearable tummy pains for hours. And quite often I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would see this beautiful purpley haze. They have like this really strong indigo aura to them. It's very sparkly, very light, partially translucent. And I would see this really beautiful, slightly triangular face looking down at me, kind of hovering over him with these really long arms that were kind of like held upright like this and like quite long on a slight angle. And they don't have hands necessarily like we do. Only one type that I've seen have had hands. And they were very sweet, very calm, mom. She had a very strong healing energy to her. I've seen them in a lot of my hybridization as well. And when they talk to you, they speak very telepathic. They're very kind. They've always been respectful. They don't ever put me in a place of fear, even when they're like hovering over the bed, kind of to interact with us. They're trying to do it in a non-threatening way. And typically they will use your full name to address you. They are quite formal in that sense. They're really quite lovely. One thing I noticed with the mantises is they do worry about with their large size scaring people. So often when I see them on craft, they will stand at the back of the room and be partly out of phase, which means it's almost like a haziness being around them. And when you're on craft, quite often you'll find that you only have like a vision capacity of seeing like 6 or 10 feet in front of you and not beyond that. And so to me, because they're doing this, they're trying to be respectful because they're still trying to talk to me and interact with me without putting me in a fear-based state. They're quite sweet.
All right. Rich Hilke is asking, do aliens abduct third shifters during the day?
What is a third shifter?
Okay, so you work the morning shift, the afternoon shift, the night shift. Night shift is the third shifters, and then they sleep during the
Nice.
day.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's daytime or nighttime. Abductions can happen at absolutely any time. And that's one thing that I've found as I've reviewed my abduction histories when I was younger. I thought, oh, they only happen at night. And I started to really review it. I'm like, oh, goodness, I've been taken in the middle of the day and on a highway and in all sorts of wild and weird areas. It doesn't matter if you're at home or somewhere else. If they want to interact with you, they will interact with you.
Perfect. Let's move on. Greco is wondering, will we grow tails again?
I don't think so, although that'd be really cool and quite handy, wouldn't it? Tail would be interesting.
I don't want no.
No?
No, not at
They're
all.
cute. Oh, come
No
on.
need for a tail. Come on.
Dave, you could hang from a tree. It's like a hammock. It'd be awesome. No? I
No.
know you're thinking about it.
I am thinking about it, but the answer is no. No, I'm good.
Okay.
All
Well,
right. Mozart is asking, can you share tips on astral projection?
yeah, of course. So there's a couple things you want to do if you're going to do astral projection tonight. So what I recommend doing is you're going to, first of all, ask all the angels and guides you work with to put up energy protection around your property and then your home. And what you're going to do is you're going to do a light meditation before you go to bed. I recommend, if you're going to astral project that night, don't have coffee or alcohol within 4 or 5 hours of going to bed because it throws off your energetic vibration. Make sure you go pee beforehand. That way you don't wake up with a full bladder partway through. And you're going to wear clothing that's actually quite comfortable. So what that means is don't wear things that you're going to get overheated in, and don't wear things that are going to get you all tangled. Because if you find somebody, like a dog jumps on the bed, it can actually wake you up out of your astral projection. So because it can actually move your clothes and make it uncomfortable. So what you're going to do is you're going to lay down and you're going to be very comfortable. I recommend doing it on your back, and you're going to relax your body one part at a time, starting at your toes. You're going to relax your toes, and once you feel your toes relax, you move all the way up your foot, up your ankles, all the way up to the top of your head. And when you feel your entire body being relaxed, it's kind of like this really weird, like detachment feeling, like when you're on a roller coaster ride or something and you feel it unclick from like the track as it starts to move forward. It's kind of got that feeling to it, and you allow yourself to float up out of the body. It feels very similar to like that feeling of when you're just falling asleep and you feel like you're falling and then you have that jerk that wakes you up. It's kind of like that. As well, if you want to do astral projection, you can ask the angels and your guides to help you with it, or you can start doing things like the tips recommended within Astral Dynamics by Robert Bruce. Fantastic book. Don't have more. I have so many good things to say about it. Astral projection is very easy and very fun. You already do it anyways, but learning how to do it consciously really does shift things around for your life. What are you looking at, Dave?
I'm looking at my other screen here because I can see the chat in real time.
Gotcha.
That's what I'm looking at. No aliens up there. No, not under the desk. All right, and let's go to Kira's question. Why is the human soul of great interest to the ETs?
It's not as much necessarily the human soul as of interest to the ET, so much as the human body. You have to look at our bodies and realize that we're actually comprised of multiple different types of extraterrestrial and multidimensional beings, genetics, all comprised together. Now, we don't all have the exact same percentages within our bodies. The human soul isn't quite right. For instance, your soul will have incarnations in different dimensions, on different planets, and can make the choice to come down here. Next lifetime, you might be Andromeda, or you might be in Taketo, or you might be wherever the heck it is you choose to be. You might be in Procyon, for all I know. Now, when these ETs are looking at us, the majority of the time they're wanting to have interactions with humans. If it's on a soul level, so with your astral consciousness, it's because they recognize you as awakening, and chances are they're trying to interact with you. And that would mean that they probably have a contract, pardon me, with you to help shift things around and help to project you forward on your life's mission and path. Whereas when they're taking the human body, it's because they see the genetic composition of that human, and there's aspects to it that they either want to modify or utilize. So when I say modify, that means things like if, for instance, you start developing cancers, infections, things that could cause a problem for the body later, they will come switch that around. Whereas if it's in relation to things like hybridization, they may alter the chemical composition of your hormones and your endocrine system, and even the hormones within your brain to help make it so you're more, in some cases, aroused or more focused on the aspect of breeding. Other times it'll put you into more maternal mode to help you if you're going to be interacting with hybrids, or even to put you in a more calm serotonin space if you're going to be having school on craft, things of that nature. They really do have an interest in our genetics because we do have not only so much genetic diversity, but the majority of us do have this way of our body that it's it's very different than even the other humans within the universe. It's not that we're special, so to speak, so much as it's like we're this really interesting experiment that they're trying to better understand and trying to better adjust and modify. We have
All right.
been Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, please finish up.
Oh, I was just going to say we have been reset several times, and with each reset, they've had to shift things within us to alter the percentages overall. And that's why some races of humans have different traits. It's not just the physical traits like hair color, eye color, that mundane nonsense. I'm actually talking about they will have different percentages of different ET-DNAs within them more prevalently.
All right, Van Gogh is asking, what's the most prominent hidden leak introduced in movies, recent or old, that stands out to you?
Mm, That's a really good question, and I honestly don't know. A lot of the movies that I watch I'm not very good at going through a movie from beginning to end. I know it's gonna sound really weird, but most of the time, movies put me into an altered state and I pass out. So I'm pretty notorious for falling asleep within 20 minutes of a movie. So I'm not really the right person to ask that of. I'm sorry. I haven't seen anything new outside of things like Disney movies in the last couple of years.
All right. Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm pretty much the same way. I'm more on
Mhm.
home gardening shows right now, trying to
Ooh, home shows.
trying to figure out my garden. Cherie is asking, do you believe that star seeds can only be Syrian or Pleiadian?
No, not at all, Cherie. A starseed could be anything. You could be a reptilian starseed. You could be a procyon starseed. You could be someone who's from, for instance, any of the water worlds as well that are starseeds. When we think of starseeds, it is more commonly known about the Syrians and the Pleiadians, but you could actually be a whole gambit of things. We have people on this planet that are actually starseeds of different types of ETs that we don't even necessarily recognize very easily. So, for instance, when I first started having some of my clients coming to me that were they're having beings coming forth that were multidimensional in nature, that I looked at them like, okay, this is a humanoid type being. It's bipedal. It has like two arms, two legs, a face. It's clearly very cognizant, very conscious, and they're bird. They're part bird to me. I'm like, what the heck is this? And I found out they're carrion. So I'm like, okay, Carion. I'm like, okay, so it's a form of multidimensional being that's part bird. That's cool. And I started interacting with all these other ones that were coming forward that were everything from like part cats. So you have your lyrans. Lyrans actually broken up into two types of starseeds. You have the cat lyrans or feline lyrans, and then you have the humanoid lyrans, which is where humanity comes from. Very interesting. And then you have some that are actually part dog, which I'm not sure where they're from. They could be from Sirius as well. I'm not positive. I heard from some that they claim to be from Sirius. I'm not absolutely certain about that. And even so, you can actually have a whole range of beings that are starseed.
All right. Tony is asking, hi, Samantha. Hi, Dave. Could Samantha please tell us what her thoughts are on Sasquatch and any connection with UFOs and or ETs? Thank you from Tony in West Wales, United Kingdom.
Nice. Oh, I love the UK. One thing that I feel about Sasquatch is I actually really have a lot of respect for the Sasquatch that have come forward in my readings, as well as the one that I did interact with in my one reptilian encounter. It did show empathy towards me, all things considered, but it I knew that it wasn't able to help me and it wasn't able to be beneficial to me, even though it would have liked to, but it knew that with the reptilians that were abducting me at that time, that it wouldn't be able to do anything without compromising its own safety. And I respect a being that is very cognizant and conscious of that aspect. The Sasquatch are beautiful people, and they are found all throughout the world. People think Sasquatch are just in North America, and they're not. They're found all throughout Asia, moving up through Russia as well. They're very commonly found there. They're probably even found in South America, although I'm not absolutely certain about that. Um, when we look at this component, though, the Sasquatch that I have met, they've all typically been more of a brownish coloring, very beautiful. They're quite tall, like 7 or 8 feet tall, more of like a very strong build, kind of like how Dave has like very big shoulders, kind of like that, and quite tall. They weren't wearing clothing. It did seem very nice. It did seem more telepathically focused. And the ones that have come forward in my readings, they do seem very kind as well. They do seem to have a mixture of male and female, some that are young and old. But from what I've noticed, they do seem to be able to travel very quickly. The one that I saw, it was there for a moment, then kind of disappeared. And to me, that means tremendous psychic abilities as well. Very cognizant and capable.
All right, let's move on. Sovereign is asking, why do aliens eat human livers?
Well, the only ones I could think of that would eat a human liver would be some varieties of reptilian, not all reptilians. Some reptilians don't even eat meat. Some only eat very specific kinds of meat, which I can understand, as I'm sure all of you can, for those of you who eat meat. And do you know what?
Hey, why not? Everybody's got their dining taste. AZ Boy is asking, is it worth taking the risk? What if we get bad aliens?
We already have taken the risk. We don't have a choice about taking this risk or not. It's already unfolding before us. Whether we like it or not, disclosure is going to happen. These beings have been coming for the entire time that we've been on this planet. We're not even from here. I mean, some of these beings think that we're the ones that have kind of overstepped our boundaries to be on this planet. We kind of have, and that's part of why some of the reptilians, especially some of the inner Earth reptilians, are not so pleased with us and have the sense of humans don't deserve to be here. I get that. But whether it's worth the risk or not, you don't have a choice. You may as well do it. Yeah, we can probably encounter bad ETs, but you could also go to your grocery store and get shot. I mean, is it worth going to get groceries? Yes, because you still got to eat. And is it worth going on a date with that person that you just met? Well, you know you want to meet somebody and have them in your life, so you take that risk all the time anyways. It's just another form of trusting your intuition and having healthy boundaries. Like we talked about earlier, the good beings want us to be very sovereign in the way that we approach disclosure rather than handing the reins over and be like, yep, you have more technology. You could fix our pollution. You can fix our problems. Great, fix us. Yep, we'll hand over whatever you want.
All right. Kevin is asking, how should you wrap your aliens to keep them from going bad? I
I
love
want to
this
say
question.
beeswax. Beeswax is always a good option. Why not?
Tinfoil? Tinfoil?
Yeah, that could be good. On the head,
Tinfoil?
maybe?
Sure. Sure. All right. Greco, is it true our ET friends are brewing hybrids to play for the Toronto Maple Leafs? They
Oh,
will.
that would be so cool.
They still will not win a Stanley Cup.
They
Greco.
might. I hope. I'm hoping for them. I will ask. One thing I've noticed is that a lot of the ETs, especially the ones that do seem to be more reptilian focused, do tend to have the right form for playing football, baseball, and hockey. So I think you'd be more inclined to have a human reptilian mix to get that combination going for you.
All right. The Michael LeJ is asking, I still have electrical vibrations running through my body at night. What is that?
That depends on two things. When you feel the electrical vibrations, do you feel it coming from inside the body or is something else coming from outside? Because you could have something like a craft nearby that's actually causing for the electrical vibrations to come in, your body's sensing it. Or if you're feeling vibrations within the body, it could be your consciousness getting ready to leave the body. For instance, astral projection, it can feel like you're having your soul separate. Sometimes that can feel like a vibration too.
All right. Eamon is asking, what about the soul trap? Going to the light gets your memory repressed and then sent back.
I don't necessarily agree with that because when I've astral projected, I've moved towards the light before and I haven't had a problem. It depends. I do think this comes back to what we discussed earlier, where we have some souls that are more so have been on this planet a long time, and other souls that are coming from other dimensions who aren't as prone to the same trickery as the other ones we talked about. This does go back into the net. The net is there to catch souls and recycle them to an extent. Yes, I agree with that, Eamon. But when it doesn't work on everybody, it really doesn't. And because you're aware of that component, you can always choose where your soul goes. You make the choice when you die. In the same way you astral project and you can go to higher dimensions or lower dimensions, it's the same thing as when you die. You can make the choice to go towards the light or project somewhere else.
We got 2 minutes before we got to go to break here at the
Mhm.
top of the hour. Samantha Mowat is our guest tonight. Azrael is asking, what's up with all the anal probing?
Well, I've never been anal probed, so that's a very good question. I've definitely heard about people who have. I've actually heard from quite a few people that they've been anally probed, but luckily they've stayed away from my butt, so I'm really happy about that. Although I could ask and they'll probably get some really skewed expressions, but I will ask the next time that I'm abducted.
Well, you know what? From what I have heard from people like Melinda Leslie and Lorian Fenton, it's
Mhm.
because that's the way they stimulate the man's prostate for ejaculation in order to steal the man's sperm in order to help create hybrid children.
To an extent, yes, but to an extent, no. I also know quite a few men that have gone through the hybridization process who don't have to have that happen. For instance, in one of my more recent hybridization encounters in the last year and a half, I had myself and another woman there to stimulate a man that we're both being bred with to have him get right to the point of ejaculation and then them collect the sperm by having something else go over the top of the penis. So I don't think they always choose to go through the butt.
Oh, look at that.
Sorry. Sorry for
Look
the
at
TMI.
that. All right. Drew is quickly. We got 45 seconds.
Mhm.
If one's consciousness is understood, how does duality exist?
That's a really good question. I think the only one that would have a true understanding of everything in clear reflection would actually be the source consciousness. I think we're all fractions of that don't have a clear understanding in the same way that a portion of the spider web does not understand the true spider web itself. All we see is the portions that are connected to us.
Well, there you go. There you go. Now that you worked up the audience on the whole anal probing aspect and went, UFO porn on us, that's Samantha's new website, ufoporn.com. No, I'm
I would make a
teasing.
lot more money if I did that.
This is true. This is true. If you do that, I'm getting in on that. Just so you know, I like a cut of that
Thank you.
money. All right, not a problem. Hey, I know I've missed a bunch of questions from the chat room. We're gonna try and get through more, and please post more if you're in one of our chat rooms or on Twitter during the show. Samantha, we got her for another 30 minutes. Then we're gonna join Vancouver and the shift with Shane, the Newswire, and the Thought of the Dave. Stay tuned. All right. We got a break coming up here. If you just want to, can you see the chat room?
No.
Okay, up in the upper left or upper right, do you have something that says comments? A little box that says comments?
Yep. No, see it.
Okay, there you go.
I was on
So
private
I'll
chat.
let you chat with the people there. I'll be right back.
Do you know what? I'm sure if you can find a way to get some sort of alien porn channel going, I'm sure it would make you a billionaire. You should definitely consider it. Yeah, actually, I agree with the remote viewers that are claiming that reptilians are controlling, because from what I've noticed and the beings that I've interacted with, they have said something very, very similar, which is quite interesting. I don't get a fortune cookie or lollipop after probing your sperm collection, although if I did, I'd probably be pretty happy. I really enjoy lollipops. That would be awesome. No, if you actually talk to a lot of contactees, especially privately, ones that are going through hybridization or orchestrated relationships, you'd find a very large portion of our contact can be very sexually focused with other humans. Although I'm trying to keep stuff like that out of my book because I don't want it to go to being like that. I want to be something that can be very focused on consciousness more so than anything else. Aw, thank you, Michael Litter. I don't actually know a lot about Antarctica. The ETs haven't taken me there. Even when I've gone astral projecting, I haven't had the pleasure of going there. But if I do, I will let you know. How much does an alien Swedish snow cone cost? That's hilarious. I would love that. If you could start making those, that'd be so much fun. That'd be entertaining. Like, I mean, it's gonna be shaped like a little gray. It's gonna have like little gray head with like the big black eyes. That'd be really cute. I'd like that. Aw. Yes, I do have my Reiki masters. I really enjoy Reiki. I enjoy all forms of energy healing. That's actually how I first started interacting with the crystal beings and started working with them. Yes, there are bases on the moon. That is correct. Sorry, I'm trying to read but not wear my glasses, so it's very fun. 1 second. Oh, you're seeing bioluminescent trails? You're seeing energy, Antonio. That's you actually recognizing the energetic pattern that's around you. That's you starting to have your clairvoyance come forward. That's awesome. That's not just sparks from electricity. That's fantastic. If you're wanting to start doing like seeing that more often, I recommend going outside in the daytime in particular when it's like really soft out. You know, when it's kind of like that late afternoon kind of energy, bright sunny day or a completely gray day. Go look up the sky, relax your eyes, get it kind of out of focus. You'll start to see more of that bioluminescence really starting to come forward all the time. It just takes a couple seconds to relax the eyes and train it. The more you start doing that and seeing those little sparks moving all over the place in every which zigzag pattern, the sooner you'll start to see auras. 1 second. 1 second. Oh, you have a lot of bears as spirit animals? Yes, you could very well be from Tau Ceti. Oh my goodness, they have so many different animals like that. And Louise, I love that. I think that's absolutely wonderful. If you're trying to actually get in better contact with the beings that are connected towards your soul family, either asking the beings that you work with, either telepathically or out loud, hey, can you guys start showing me where my soul origins are from? Can you show me what planets I've lived on? Can you show me where you're actually from? It actually helps a lot. The more you ask them for help, you start including them, the sooner they're like, yes, okay, they want to see us, they want to interact with us, and they'll start to come forward to you. My high cheekbones indicate I'm reptilian. Actually, that is a very strong reptilian trait. And yes, I do suspect this part is from the reptilian aspect. And in case you're wondering, I have black reptilian hybrid babies. They're absolutely gorgeous. I love them. 2 sons for sure. And I really enjoy them. I do believe that's also part of the reason I have a lot of encounters with the reptilians is because of the higher percentage of genetics from them, which is really entertaining. Tiny spark orbs in the shower that you're seeing. Oh, if you're seeing tiny spark orbs that are moving around the shower, they're also more likely to be the source consciousness that's all around and prevalent in all things. That's your clairvoyance as well. That's not individual beings. Or they look like white and kind of like little sparkles like you'd see off of like a sparkler that you light up on someone's birthday? Yes, your spirit animal can be an ET being that you don't know. It can be some sort of animal from another planet that you highly connected to that either had a very great impact on you in that incarnation, such as a pet or something that saved your life, things like that. Very important, very interesting. Go ahead, Dave. What's up?
Oh no, I'm just getting ready here. We've got about a minute.
Yeah,
You keep going. I'm just getting ready for the after show.
yeah, sounds good to me. Where do our loved ones go when they pass away? That depends on your loved ones. Some choose to hang out in limbo for quite a long time, staying around the people that they love, and kind of as like a ghost type thing, hang out around the planet Earth. Some people choose to leave the planet right away and go to other dimensions for healing and reflection upon their incarnation. Some people choose to incarnate right away if they want to get back into the game, whether it's on this planet or others, very depending upon the soul. There's not one set template for every soul, so it's quite interesting. Oh, I've never heard of blue-skinned humans attacking people. That's interesting, Ted. I've met quite a few of them and I haven't had a problem with them. So I'm sorry to hear that you went through that. That sounds really frustrating.
All right, we've got 1 minute.
Oh, sorry. I was just trying to read. I didn't bring my glasses, so kind of fun trying to read right now.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. You're good. Don't worry about it.
All right. Well, I'm all set up here, so
Perfect.
we're all good here. Hi, Ted for Quarian. How are you? Welcome to Spaced Out Radio's chat room. I probably butchered your last name, but I appreciate you coming on in. And remember, we're going to try and get in as many questions as we can to Samantha when we come back. And want to say a big thank you to Science Bob, Murray, Andrew, Ed, Fap, Vinster, Chad, Cedric, Horror Realm, AZ Boy, and Bigfoot Rob for the super chats. Here we go, everyone. We're 5 seconds away from the start of this show. Thank you to all our new subscribers as well.
And there are some blue-skinned beings from the Arcturus system as well for Ted.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate having you along for the ride of the Woo train. Big thank you to everyone tuning in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com youtube.com/spaced out radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Octothorpe. Octothorpe is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with Samantha Mowat tonight as we got her till the bottom of the hour. Samantha's website, samanthamowat.ca. Thank you so much for joining us, Sam. We'll continue on with the audience questions here. Ted is asking, let's see here. Where's Ted's question here? Why are the blue skin human, or where are the blue skin humans from, and are they good?
Some of them are from the Arcturus star system, as I was talking to Ted about a few moments ago. Not all of them, but some of them, because we can actually have multiple different locations for beings of the same skin tone and similar in appearance coming from. So in the same way that you can have people of any race on planet Earth coming from any which direction. Just because somebody is, let's say, blue doesn't mean they're just coming from Arcturus. Now, you mentioned the fact that these three try to take you through a portal, which to me, because they're using portal technology, that screams a being that is a higher consciousness or technological consciousness than we are capable of. So I'd place them on par with the Arcturians that I've dealt with. Pardon me. So to me, that means they're more multidimensional than physically focused because they didn't have a mechanical crack come over you. So to me, that means they're not from this dimension necessarily. That would be a multidimensional encounter.
All right, Greco says, do aliens have any dating advice?
I love that one. I saw that. Actually, yes, if you interact with Palladium type beings, they don't actually have monogamy where they're from. They believe in being with people as long as your energies are aligned. So what that means is they don't actually have weddings or marriages in the way that we do. They will have children with people sometimes, but they will typically be together as long as the two energies are in cohesion or vibrational similarity. So as soon as they're no longer in compatibility vibration-wise with one another, they go their own directions, which I think is a much more harmonized way than our traditional viewpoint and standard of dating.
All right. How does one choose, this is from Mozart, between the higher and lower dimensions on astral projection?
Oh, so what you're going to do is if you look at everything, everything is energy, especially emotions. Your emotions before you go to sleep are really going to determine whether or not you go to a higher dimensional plane or a lower dimensional plane. If you're dealing with a lot of stress, anxiety, PTSD, depression, things like that, you're more prone to going to the lower astral. So when I'm really wanting to fix myself to go towards a higher dimensional plane to interact with my angels, my guides, stuff like that before I go to sleep, I really focus on my gratitude. I'll focus on it for like 2 or 5 minutes before I go to sleep. It's like, oh, I'm so grateful for the light, the curtains, whatever, looking around the room. It's a cheater's way of raising my vibration. Whereas if I'm already asleep and astral projecting, and I was like, oh, damn, I'm in the lower astral again. Sometimes it takes a moment for you actually have to stop and think of where do I want to go? And then you focus on a time or a place, and then you kind of pull your consciousness there. That's how you change where you're located. That can take you to lower dimensions or higher dimensions, is when you focus your intention upon one location in particular.
Ryan is asking, what is the devil to you, Samantha?
Anyone who isn't kind. Anyone who, it doesn't matter what species you are, it doesn't matter what your origination is. The devil to me is something that is more evil, something that doesn't have respect for life in any form, something that is purely self-serving. The devil in the construct that's described as by most people doesn't make sense to me.
All right. Tony is asking, Samantha, could you please give us your thoughts about the cryptid creature Dogman?
Of course, I haven't had the pleasure of interacting with a dogman yet, although I have had friends that do have interactions with these. I know that they are a more telepathic type being, one that has been found in Canada, in particular towards the central Canada, moving over to eastern Canada. I know they're found in that region in particular. I don't see them in the area that I'm in. I've never had them come forward to me, so I don't know much about them. I'm sorry, Tony.
All right. Let's go to Kids Future. What do you think of RH negative blood where it comes from then?
When I look at the Rh negative blood component, I do think that's part of the reason why I go through so much hybridization. I do not believe that Rh negative blood is actually human blood. I do have the belief that it is more extraterrestrial in nature as far as its composition is concerned. And that's why I do believe that a lot of the people that have this blood type are more prone to not only psychic abilities, but also towards certain illnesses and contact as well.
Moving on here, Vinny is asking, what happens when we die?
That depends upon you. When you die, Vinny, you make the choice whether you want to stay around your loved ones for months. One thing I've found with quite a few of my clients, especially the ones whose deaths I predicted, I will end up interacting with them. Sometimes they'll stay around their spouse for several months. They may even stay around them for several years before making the choice to go and transition over to the other side. Some of them choose to stay on this plane of existence just outside of our physical form and stay around their children to make sure that they're safe, kind of guiding them, interacting them, watching them as a form of spirit guides, so to speak. Whereas other people, as soon as they die, they make the choice to, okay, I had a really intense, traumatic life. I need a break. And they'll go with their guides towards other dimensions where they'll start to go through a life review. They'll go through healing. They'll go through a very long time, sometimes 10, 20, 40, 60, 100 years, where really getting a lot of that crap that they experienced released and then playing their next incarnations. Whereas other people can sometimes make the choice to, for instance, in my last lifetime, I died in the mid 1960s. I chose to be born again in the early 1980s. So looking at that aspect, well, not early, but mid, whatever. And look at that, 20 years is a very short turnaround period. So my soul was eager to start planning this incarnation and get going. Whereas sometimes people can choose to take a couple 100 years break in between. So it really does depend on what you choose to do when you die as to where you go.
All right, let's move on here as we continue on going on here on Spaced Out Radio. I love Fap's or Vinny's question here. Can you pet your cat one more time before you go?
I could, but I think he's sleeping. But yeah, I can.
All right.
It's very cute.
There you go, Vin. Anything we do can do to make you happy. That's what we do around here, Vin. Sam, the questions have kind of dried up for right now from our audience, but I want to ask you, as we only got about 15 minutes left, I kind of want to direct the conversation to this area here, and that is, for people who are just starting to wake up to the fact that we may have UFOs visiting Earth, for us in ufology or who have experienced the strange phenomena, we know. We already know what's happening, what's going on. The phenomena is real to us. But for those out there who are basically 9-to-5ers, they don't see anything beyond their white picket fence, their 2.1 children, their dog, their cat, their mortgage, how do we wake them up to the realities of what is just around the corner?
Well, unfortunately, Dave, there's very little that you can say or I can say that is going to have an influence upon those people who are not quite at the point where they're ready to move out beyond the illusion of what is presented to all of us throughout our lives. These people will not take our words seriously. They could see a UFO up in the sky. It could be hovering above their house for 10 minutes, and their wife could see it, and their daughter could see it, and their dog could bark at it. And 10 minutes later, when they're inside the house and the UFO's gone, they're like, oh, yeah, I don't know what I saw. I don't know. I must have been daydreaming that or something. It's probably just a plane. They'll have that level of cognitive dissonance where they dismiss what they've seen. And it's not until something that they view as a more valid authority above themselves informs them that, hey, these things are real, that they start to allow the possibility of some of the weird and paranormal events that they've had unfold within their own lives actually did occur. And so it's that level of cognitive dissonance, which can be very dangerous for people such as yourself and myself, because those people tend to be quite aggressive when we are bringing forward information that doesn't resonate with what they want to believe. That is where it's a bit more challenging. I do recommend, go ahead.
No, please finish.
For the people that are kind of on that cusp, that precedence where they're just starting to get into the almost part of waking up, just like a gentle discussion about, hey, I saw this really cool article in the news. Do you see the Pentagon is going to be releasing this information? What do you think about that? Oh, cool. I think this. It's kind of like a safe way to bridge the gap with these people is to help moving this forward in a way that's not threatening for them, that doesn't force them to readdress too much of their belief system at one go. It's fascinating, and I can see why the government's doing it the way that they are, because they do want to keep everyone safe in that sense for their own best interest. But when you look at the aspect of these people, even like we talked about earlier, putting on a movie or a show, maybe not Independence Day where the aliens are killing everybody, but Taken's a good one. That's always a nice, easy one. Maybe not the series because that's pretty intense. it might be a bit too hard for those people. Go ahead, Dave. You're making
No, when you mentioned V,
yeah.
oh, I'd love to see that again.
Oh, I hope they remake it again. They've always done a very interesting job with that series. But there are lots of movies, such as Jupiter Ascending, did a really good job of showing what some of the Draconis reptilians look like, but in black. Granted, the one that I've bred with, the one that I've encountered numerous times, isn't quite that broad. Like he's not quite like that strong of like body. He's a bit more sleek looking than that. But they did do a good job of helping us show what some of these ETs do look like. So there is that soft disclosure taking place around us.
Okay. And I understand that and I can appreciate that. But
Mhm.
my concern is, how is this going to affect people on the planet? All right.
Okay.
This is going to affect, there are very few things that are going to affect everybody on this planet.
Mhm.
Okay. Worldwide disasters do,
Mhm.
diseases like COVID do.
Mhm.
Jesus Christ coming down from the heavens above will be a strange day for all of us.
Nice guy.
Okay. Yes. Okay. But extraterrestrials and the
Mhm.
fact that we are not alone in the universe is a massive one as well. I'd put that as number 2 next to Jesus Christ's return. Okay. But and I know they're here, but there's many listening to this show or those who are being awakened by the mainstream news coverage of this who have poo-pooed this subject
Of
for
course.
decades.
Yeah.
So for those people, okay, how do we wake them up? How do we get them to know or the problems that they will have adjusting to a new reality? I think
Mhm.
of religious people
Of course.
who believe that anything coming from the sky is demonic. All right, I think of
But if
that's
it
how.
was demonic, why would the Pope say that they'd be willing to convert them over to Catholicism if they're demonic?
Well, I understand that, and you understand that, but I mean, there's still 4.5, 5 billion people on this planet that pray or dote on a religious deity.
Mhm.
Not shooting that down. I'm not saying that to
No.
be insultive or any way like that. But I look at the financial markets. I look at the
Mhm.
people who suffer from anxiety and depression. I look at the way this is going to tip the iceberg. Like, I think I'm prepared, and I'll be honest with you. I'm scared. I
Aw.
am scared over this. Not for the fact that they're coming, but for the fact is I don't know why. I don't know why they are here. I don't know how people around me are going to react. That is what I'm getting at.
That's fair. And for those that are in our lives that are mentally unstable, they are not going to react well. And I mean that in the most love-based way I possibly can. For people that are more prone towards anxiety and suicidal tendencies, we're going to see a skyrocket when it comes to people committing suicide. When we see people that are religious, we're going to see someone become very vigilant and hyper-focused upon their religion. And that is unfortunately something that we are going to be aware of. And so we do have to really take into consideration the people that are in our lives who are of these cognitive dissonance type illusions. And so if you're dealing with someone who's religious, go ahead and look up where their religious affiliation stands in regards to ufology. In the stance of Catholicism, we know that the Pope has said, hey, if the ETs exist and they come to Earth, I will baptize them and convert them into Christianity and welcome them with open arms. Cool, that's great. For people that are more scientifically based, focus them on the whole, okay, the universe is this big, we know there's this many billion stars. What is the statistical probability that we're alone? And give them the same statistical probability within our solar system of there being life present. For the people in our lives who are more just all around negative and not wanting to view this as a possibility, those ones I don't think you're going to be able to convince very easily because they've already made up their minds about this. And so we do have to be respectful to the people in our lives as disclosure does start to happen. And there's a lot of mental check ins that you're going to have to do with the people that you're connected to when this does happen. Because we are going to see a lot more drinking happening. We're going to see a lot more people viewing it as the end times. So be very aware that your house could get broken into, you could get raped, you could get murdered because people might try to take what you have out of fear that this is the end times. And they view their actions as being justifiable, even though they're not. And that's part of what the ETs we talked about earlier are trying to avoid when they're saying they want to maintain our
Hmm.
sovereignty as they come forward in a soft disclosure.
So you hit the nail right on the head there. That's what concerns me is
Mhm.
this becomes all of a sudden very anarchic. Okay,
Yeah.
almost like days upon days of the movie The Purge, where all
Ugh.
of a sudden, who cares? This new life, we don't know if we're going to live or we're going to die, or we're going to be eaten by aliens because people are going to panic. I mean, this is what I worry about. I worry about how people are going to react at the
Mhm.
supermarket, like we've seen with COVID, with the hoarding
Panic
of
buying.
the panic buying of toilet paper and hand sanitizer, and storing up on 500 pounds of steaks and chicken breasts,
And
and
Dave, they're gonna do that again. You know that's coming.
well, I realize that this is what I'm fearful from,
Mhm.
right? This is what I worry about, and I don't think it's something that we should overlook going
No.
through this process.
Of course not. And so, one of the best things that you can do is be proactive about that, knowing that it's going to happen, knowing that we're going to have some of our neighbors and friends and family panicking. It is wise to have a small stockpile of food, whether it's rice, beans, chicken, I don't care what it is, pick your protein that's there as a couple extra bags in your fridge or in your freezer or in your crawl space. I don't care, pick it. And it is very important when these things do happen to help keep your family safe is to not expose yourselves to unnecessarily dangerous situations. And so, what that means is that if you notice that one of your family members, neighbors, or dear friends is being erratic and panic based, don't necessarily spend a lot of your time and focus with them. Try to put some space between yourselves and them at that time because you don't want to unnecessarily endanger yourself or your family. And I mean that with as much compassion and love as I possibly can. But when we have extremely stressful situations like this coming forward, it can be very dangerous for our family and for ourselves, especially if you don't have a good intuition, especially if
Uh,
you're in a state where it's cut off.
and that's the big one. That's the big one because I look at it that this will disrupt everything that we know of.
Mhm.
What all of a sudden people are going to be running around that what's important, wondering what's important, what's
Mhm.
going on, what do we do, what do we don't do. I mean, do we go rob the supermarket, rob the gas station for fuel? Do we drain our bank accounts? Do we hoard gold? Do we go buy guns? What do we do? And that's the big thing. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
I do, and you don't need guns against the ETs. For one, all of them have technology that far surpasses ours, so that's useless. You would need things to protect yourself from other humans. And so I do recommend if you do have family cabins, go to them if they're out there. That way you can take a break from people for a while. It could be safer than staying in your cities. If
So
you
basically,
do, mhm,
sorry for cutting you off, but so basically what you're saying, it's not the ETs we need to worry about when they
no,
make themselves known. It is the our own fears that we are going to have to combat.
you are correct. And unfortunately, it will bring out the best in some people and the worst in others. Just like
True.
COVID, do you think tensions were high with people wearing masks, not wearing masks, getting the vaccine, not getting the vaccine? That is nothing compared to what we would see with a full-on disclosure if we were to have a alien gray ship land on the front lawn of the Pentagon and walk out and say, "Hey, we're here. We've been coming here all along. We've been taking your people." You would see anarchy in the streets by tomorrow.
True. True. Have the ETs shown you any projections of
Mhm.
what will happen?
Yes, quite a few. I've been shown one where an EMP goes off, and I was told to take my children and to actually drive out of the city that I'm in and drive north. In other ones, upon moving up here, they showed me something similar happening where different ETs were coming forward and they were presenting themselves as a race that wanted to actually be not so kind to humanity and humans panicking. And they told me to leave my dogs, leave my cats, someone else will take care of them, and to take my children and drive west. The ETs that I work with have explained that if this is going to be going sour at all, my children and I are taking off planet until things settle down. So
I'm
I
coming.
actually feel
I'm coming with you.
I
I'm
feel
coming
bad
with
for
him.
people that are left down here because everything that they have shown is the ETs have stressed that we need to normalize ET contact as much as possible. We have to help people better connect into their psychic abilities and use their own bodies as barometers to connect into their intuition to tell them if they're safe or if they're not safe, rather than the fear mongering, which is a very high probability of a false flag alien invasion.
So what are you hoarding when they come? Metamucil, Jello.
I don't think, judging by the one comment the one gentleman said about people in their underwear, I don't think you have to hoard Metamucil. But if you do choose to do things like hoarding, vitamins are never a bad idea. Rice is never a bad idea. Things that actually have nutrient value, like protein powders and workout shakes, things that have all the nutrients you need.
It's very cool. It's very cool.
Mhm.
We have about just over 90 seconds
Of
left
course.
with you tonight. And I want to say always a
Mhm.
pleasure and a thank you to have you come on this show. You're one of my best friends.
Yay.
And I am so enamored to have you as a very close friend, and not only me, but my family as well.
Mhm.
And you are brilliant when it comes to this.
Thank
And
you.
I think the world needs to continue to hear your message, because whatever is coming and whatever we're being prepared for, we're not prepared for.
No, we're not. But thank you so much for having me on, Dave. And all of you, if something does happen, ask your angels and guides for help with everything from food to water to shelter to safety. Believe me, you have this wonderful team working with you. Utilize them and use them. It's your best resource at hand.
I agree with you on that. We got a minute to go. Let everybody know where they can find your website and your YouTube channel.
Of course. So I'm on YouTube at Samantha Mowat. I am at www.samanthamowat.ca, as in Canada, of course. You're most welcome, Antonio. I really had a good time. I will be starting TikTok soon for those who want to better understand everything from ET contact to psychic abilities, little tips and tricks how to make yourself a lot more psychic at a much quicker rate, as well as how to recognize the different types of ETs and angelic beings and stuff like that coming around. Because my guides want me to move from YouTube over to the platform of TikTok for easier viewing for people. It should be fun.
You should have fun, and you
Mhm.
will. And Samantha, in my opinion, you're one of the best, and we really do appreciate you coming on Spaced Out Radio.
Oh,
And we'll always do it soon, every few
yes.
months, because that's what
Yeah.
we do. And as soon as that border opens up, Science Bob hopping in the motorhome, him and his wife
Nice.
Sharon are driving
Yay.
up, and he wants to go see some aliens in the forest with you.
Sounds like fun. I can't wait. We'll love it.
SamanthaMowat.ca is her website. Samantha Mowat, everybody. Coming up next,
Right.
we're going to join Shane in the shift in Vancouver. Then we're going to get to the news wire and the thought of the day. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Great show.
That was
Great
fun.
show.
Thanks, Dave. Very entertaining.
Yeah, always is with you. And
Yeah.
it's always a pleasure. I just typed in her website for those who want to grab it. There it is. All you got to do is
Mhm.
copy and paste.
Easy
And
peasy.
yeah, you were
Mhm.
brilliant once again.
Thanks.
Brilliant once again. And um, yeah,
Aw.
you said a lot of things that
Mhm.
I cannot say from my sources tonight. So thank you.
I totally understand. I do my
Yeah,
best. Yeah,
absolutely.
it's entertaining, but one thing I didn't get to cover is the ETs have warned about a false flag aspect as well, and they they do seem stressed about it, Dave.
Hmm.
Like they have shown
I
it
know.
multiple times with multiple different species coming forward, but the most common craft that they keep showing me one that's under a false flag aspect is either a completely silver and like a brushed silver craft like what the Greys use. They've also shown the black triangular crafts coming forward, and they have shown cigar ones as the three most prominent ones that the ETs have shown me.
Weird.
Quite.
Weird. All right, my friend. I got to go get
Mhm.
ready for the news in Vancouver.
Perfect. I'll let you go.
And much love to you. And I'll call you
Yes.
soon. Okay.
Sounds good. Night, Dave. Bye.
Good night. Bye bye. Samantha Mowat, everybody. Samantha Mowat. Hey guys, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you tonight?
I am great. Okay, so what's happened here is I switched to a new program called StreamYard.
Yeah.
And I don't have Skype hooked up to it yet. I don't know how to get Skype in there. So that's what's happening here.
Okay. We'll be able to do the connection through this phone line, though. It should be good.
Oh, yeah, we're good. I got you here, and you guys are loud and proud of my microphone, so my audience will be able to hear it too.
Excellent. And do you want to jump on the Zoom meeting, or are you? We've got the Zoom meeting going here.
You're not going to be able to hear me. That's the problem, because I'm all connected through StreamYard.
They won't be able to hear you on the Zoom meeting?
Or do you just want me? Yeah, no, they're not going to be able to see me because my camera is live on my YouTube channel right now.
Okay, that's fine then. I'll let them know.
Yeah.
So we'll just do this audio-wise. Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Still going to be about over 2 minutes here, but then we'll be with you.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, brother. Let's turn that down for a little bit. So I get the news ready. All right. Thank you guys for everything. I know I couldn't get to all the questions out there, and I really would love to try and get you guys all the questions for Samantha. The chat room was moving just way too fast that I couldn't grab as many of the questions that I wanted to, because the chat room kept skipping on me. So I do apologize about that. Excuse me. But we will get Samantha back very soon and go from there. And it's good times, everyone. Good times. And for those of you who are new to Samantha, she's the one who I saw the alien in the forest with. Literally 25 minutes after I met her on April 15th, 2014. And she's very special to me. So it's all good. Let's see here. Let's go here. All right. So we are up here in just a little bit. By the way, it snowed here today. I wasn't happy about that. Hi, Bombshell Bomber. Monolith, I know you had a question. I apologize that I didn't get to it. We'll see how it goes. And it's a good show. All right. We're going to come back here. Hi, UFO Nod. How are you? We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. We're going to head over to Vancouver, hook up with our good buddy Shane from The Shift on the Chorus Radio Network that goes right across Canada. And Shane, how you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. How are you? How you been? I like the new trimmed beard. Looks handsome.
Oh, you know what? I'll be honest with you. The reason why I trimmed it, number one, it was driving me nuts. But number two, I actually had a listener on our YouTube channel, go by Shiny Ray is her name. She's deaf and has a hearing impediment, and she reads lips. And through my beard, she could not properly read my lips to see what I was saying during the show. So that really actually hit home with me. And I'm like, I got to shave the beard. I have no choice. Got to make it happen.
So you trimmed it. Looks good. I like that. It looks really good. So you have had a heck of a couple of weeks here since the last time we chatted. You always say to me, Dave Scott, that we need to do a better job talking about things like the UFOs and making sure that the conversation is alive. We need to ask the hard questions. And it looks like some of that hard work is starting to pay off, because there's an awful lot of things flying around these days, including videos and more. So tell us what is happening, Dave Scott.
Well, first of all, you know how proud I am to sit here and tell you and your audience, I told you so. I told you it was coming. I told you the news of UFOs was going to get really, really real. I didn't think it would get this real, Shane. I really didn't think it would get this real. So for people who are not sure what I'm talking about, June 25th is the big day where we are going to see the Pentagon release the files of what allegedly the United States government knows about UFOs. Now, a lot of these military groups and alphabet agencies are kind of playing dumb on the topic, saying, well, we didn't know this was going on. But guess what? They did. They've got files for years. My personal bet in thinking of what's going to go on here very soon is there's a lot of media hype going on with this, because the media, as we have talked over the last year that you and I have been doing this, Shane, was really and has really been caught off guard. The amazing part here in Canada is we have every media outlet, even those on the Chorus Radio Network, who are reporting all of these stories in the United States. But guess what? Not a single reporter has approached Prime Minister Trudeau or Harjit Sajjan, our Minister of Defense, and said, hey, what does Canada know about these UFOs? What do they know what's going on? Do you not think it's time that maybe we ask that question, since it's such a hot button topic down south?
I would imagine Canadian politicians are just drooling at the fact that everybody's eyes are on America right now on all these videos that are coming out.
There are some. I've talked to a couple. There are some. They're not ready to go public yet, because they don't even know in Canada what agency is actually carrying the UFO files. Look, the public ones we know are the Ministry of Defense. We know that they are scrambling CF-18 Hornets to try and intercept these craft. We also know that we haven't had any fighter pilots come out saying that this has happened, even though we know it's happened. How do we know it's happened? Because there are reports out there that have come out publicly through the Transportation Safety Board and NAV Canada. The question is, why aren't the pilots talking about it? Who is our commander, David Fravor? Who is the Canadian David Fravor, the fighter pilot who intercepted the Tic Tac? Who is the Canadian version of that? We need that person to come out, or that radar operator on one of Canada's ships in the Navy to come out and say, this is what we saw. I don't care if it's behind a dark screen or a shadow screen and we change your voice. You got to come out, you got to help out and represent what you saw. This is a topic that isn't going away, and we need to figure out, for Canadians' sake, where we are, that we need to know what's going on and what is our role. Now, from what I'm hearing, Shane, our role is to just pass the information over to Big Brother down south. The Americans, through NORAD, want it all. And that's fine. They've been collecting it for years. Apparently, there was an agreement that stopped in the 1990s between Canada and the United States on UFOs. That may have been rekindled again under a different program or through NORAD. But from what I'm hearing right now, the Canadians are scrambling to try and figure out, what do we do with this information? Where's the information going? Because they are knowing that the pressure will come on very soon on them.
It's the storyline that you mentioned there about the two separate pilots who intercepted, I think it was about 100 miles southwest of around San Diego, a flying object that was sort of bouncing around so incredibly fast. That might be the Tic Tac one. They said in their interviews that, if I had seen this by myself, I probably wouldn't have said anything because it was that weird. Unsettling, I think, was the word they used. But because there was 2 pilots there, and now it has expired on the confidence timeline thing, excuse my lack of proper terminology, it's quite a remarkable story to hear them describing this almost playful flying Tic Tac that was almost mirroring them and dancing with them.
Well, the funny part about it is the pilots, David Fravor, who is Commander David Fravor, he was the lead pilot on this. And then there was former Navy pilot Lieutenant Ryan Graves, who intercepted one on the East Coast in Virginia Beach in 2014. They have come out and really said that these objects have been happening for years, and it is daily. Lieutenant, I want to say lieutenant for our Canadian listeners, lieutenant for our American listeners here on my show, Alex Dietrich. She was the wing person to Commander David Fravor when he went to go into this Tic Tac. Now, for our public that needs to understand this craft that they were following literally went from 80,000 feet down to sea level in less than 1 second. Less than 1 second. Imagine how fast that is. So if you're a mathematician, and I am not, please do the calculation and let us know how many nautical miles per hour that is. 100,000? 200,000? Come to a complete stop on the water and then start floating on the air above the water 10, 20 feet? How ridiculous is that? And these pilots saw this. And they're talking publicly now. They're encouraging other pilots of the United States Navy, both past and present, to come out and talk about these incidents. Now, Alex Dietrich, she went on to say that these reports are happening daily. Now, we have to remember up here in Canada, if these reports are happening daily around the United States Armed Forces and their training facilities, it's happening around the world. It's happening in Canada. It's happening in Russia. It's happening in China, Japan, Great Britain. They're just not talking about it. It's the Americans who've decided to talk about it. Now it's just the United States Navy. The Air Force wants nothing to do with this story. They are still quite silent on the whole thing. But this is where we are. And it's time for people to believe that this is something that is truly amazing going on, and everybody should start paying attention.
There's a remarkable video that was it's trending, and it's this one. It's at globalnews.ca. It's a video of a UFO. It's one of the nighttime spectrum cameras that captured the video, and they call it a leaked video. The UFO is flying hits the brakes just above the water, but then submerges. So what do you know about that storyline around UFOs flying into the ocean and maybe hiding down in the depths?
There is a very good possibility that is happening. These craft, including the Tic Tac that Commander David Fravor saw, literally went into the water and was able to come out. These have propulsion systems that can seem to go very fast underwater. We're talking like 400 or 500 knots underwater, and then come right out of the water and take off into the air and shoot up into space within milliseconds. This is something that the Navy is checking out. They want to know how these craft are able to fly in the sky and go underwater at the same time. This is a reality. That video that you're seeing, which was released by Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp from Mystery Wire, is very real. This is another one of those videos that has been released by the Pentagon. My sources are telling me that Corbell is going to be getting more videos coming around soon that will be released before the June 25th date. Look, they're laying it out on the line. The big question that we need to be asking ourselves right now, Shane, and this is what we've been discussing for the last couple of months on our show, is why now? Why now? Why is this all of a sudden important? For 70 years, they've called people who see UFOs and aliens lunatics, tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists, nothing but nighttime convenience store clerks with no dental plan who've never made more than minimum wage. Trust me, everybody in ufology has heard every incident and insult possible. Okay, people in this field who believe in this have lost family members due to thinking that so and so is a little bit off right now. He sees aliens, and you know what? The conspiracy of it all is coming true. The question is, how much is it going to come true? And there's a lot of people who've sacrificed, but we also have to remember in that why now question, why is it important for the military to come out? Why is this all of a sudden taking government heat? Now, there's two theories that are going on this side of the microphone. Number one, and this is my opinion, and it's getting a little bit of legs on social media lately. Number one, there's always been this rumor led by a gentleman named Dr. Stephen Greer, who claims that there is an alien war that's going to be a false flag that's potentially coming, an alien invasion. And we got to be prepared for that, this false flag. Number two, which I find a little bit more credible, even though it sounds a little bit more woo, is that we are hearing as well that maybe, just maybe, contact was made and those from above have given us a date on when they will be arriving. It's not going to be this year. It's not going to be next year. Maybe as early as 5 years, maybe as long as 30. One important source that I go to on a regular basis told me, be prepared for your children and my children when they are grandparents to be living with extraterrestrials on this planet. How scary is that?
That's terrifying to me, unless they're like super nice and they happen to, I don't know, pick up after my children. That would be really helpful because then I could, really, use the help around the house as a single dad with 2 kids. But I'm doubting that would be why they would travel all this time to get here. So here's a question. You took us there very naturally, but Jeff asks this, a question for your UFO guy. Apparently you're my UFO guy.
Thank you.
If the United Nations got any single government or whatever country came out and confirmed that there was actual proof of UFOs and aliens in the world, what do you think the world's reaction would be? Would we be ready as a civilization for full disclosure?
No. Now, there are people who believe that we need to get this out for the betterment of humankind. Luis Elizondo has been saying that. But we have to also understand, too, there are real ramifications of this happening. And this is why I do believe this is going to be very, very slow of a process. It's going to affect the markets. It's going to affect every person on this planet. There are very few things in this world and in our lifetimes that will affect each and every one of us. A comet smashing into Earth from space would affect us all. COVID has affected us all. If Jesus Christ himself comes down from the heavens, it will affect us all. All right. The fact that we are not alone in the universe will affect everybody of this planet. There's a lot of people out there who are going to be afraid. We're going to see, people stockpiling on toilet paper and Metamucil and hand gloves and bullets and everything. And I say that with some humor, but look what we've seen so far with COVID. Look at the people in the U.S. when the computer problem happened with the gas company in the U.S. and everybody was grabbing shopping bags to fill up with gasoline because they wanted to make sure they have gas. We are a panicked society right now. If we all of a sudden throw into the fact that we could be being visited by extraterrestrials, who knows what we're going to do on this planet? People are going to be hoarding. People are going to be stealing. It is going to be anarchic for a while. People are going to be running into the forest and living off of wildlife. I'm not trying to hit the fear factor button because I'm not into the fear porn of it all, but there is a real reality of what is going to happen here, and we got to be prepared for it.
Yeah, you know what? And it's the reality of that's the way that we've seen people react. That's for sure. Spaced Out Radio, Dave Scott, check it out. It's fantastic work that you've done. And you're right, man. You nailed it. I did get a text, by the way, 80,000 feet per second is the equivalent of 54,545.445 miles per hour.
That's fast.
Thank you very much. That's very fast. Thanks for being here, brother. It's so great to hear your voice. I appreciate you.
Next month, I will promise you that we will have some big news regarding this.
Yeah, well, we're on tap to have you on just before that it comes out, and we'll absolutely bring you back as it comes out too, and get more information on all this. You're our insider on the things going outside of the atmosphere. Thanks so much, Dave.
All right, take care, Shane. All right, let's get to the news, shall we? The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the really odd. You know, there's this couple in the United States that are so in love that they've decided that they're going to be chained up together. Or maybe they're in Russia. No, it's the Ukrainians, everyone. It's the Ukrainians. Yes, despite claiming to be fed up just a little bit, Victoria Pustovitova and Alexander Kudlay say they plan to cut the wielded chain at their wedding. They have literally chained themselves up so that way they cannot be a minute apart to see how they can handle themselves. Yeah, with no wedding date actually set, who knows when this can happen? The pair, who are from the Ukraine, made themselves inseparable on Valentine's Day and want the stunt to bring them millionaire status while raising money for charity. Their chain is welded, and they'll need emergency services to cut it open when it actually decides to come off. I think I speak for many when I very confidently say that 999 would be getting called within the first day. The couple wear specially developed clothing with zips from the bottom to the top, enabling them to dress and undress without Houdini-like contortions. Victoria and Alexander have already set both Ukrainian and world records for their stunt, and now they're seeking to flog their chain for $3 million at an international auction. Alexander said, "We want to donate $2 million to charity and are currently negotiating. We will leave $1 million for our personal use. We will buy apartments for ourselves and for our relatives. We do not have our own housing." They broke the world record on 14th of May, and they called it a big victory. However, Alexander insisted that they are going further and taking part in a reality TV show. Thankfully, Alexander managed to carry on working as a car salesman with his girlfriend by his side, but unfortunately, Victoria had to give up her work as an artificial eyelash creator because clients didn't want her boyfriend being so close to them. Oh, that's terrible. And finally, tonight in the news, let's go here. Wisconsin authorities have ticketed a man who was sleeping behind the wheel of his Tesla as the car drove itself in a mode known as autopilot. The Kenosha County Sheriff reported that shortly before 8 a.m., a deputy drove alongside a 2019 Tesla and observed its driver dozing as the car hurtled down Interstate 94. The deputy tried to perform a traffic stop, but noted the driver was not pulling over as he followed behind for approximately 2 miles at 82 miles per hour through the valley. Eventually, after the deputy again pulled alongside the Tesla, the driver woke up, stopped the vehicle. According to the report, the driver denied being asleep, but admitted being tired, and he was issued a citation for inattentive driving. Let's get right to the thought of the day, shall we? Today's thought of the day is as follows. Is the new hype publicly about UFOs good for advancing the field of ufology? Let's go to Cherry. Ufology as a field science? Absolutely not. Perhaps for a marginal few humans who may benefit monetarily from it. Michael, good for the subject only if actually legitimate and programmatic. Scientific investigation of aerial anomalies in the field is the result. All right, Bug. Absolutely. This is what we've wanted for decades. Now it's here. Everyone's got some kind of issue with it. What is happening is fantastic. And Dawn gets the final word tonight. I think it's a flash in the pan. And unless something significant happens, it will subside back to being only covered by those who have already been doing it for years. Thank you to everybody playing along in the Thought of the Dave on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you to Captain Shirk for the SOR Newswire. Shane from the Shift on the Chorus Radio Network talking about UFOs. And of course, the lovely and talented Samantha Mowat hanging on out at hashtag Spaced Out Radio and on the show throughout the night. We've got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone checking us out on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, and at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. Well, that was fun. All right. Yeah. Give me 2 seconds here. Who's the other idiot on Twitter right now? Or not on Twitter, on Twitch. I gotta figure out this Twitch thing. Got a bunch of morons on there right now. So let's go. I'm just blocking people here. Give me 2 seconds here. Okay, block them. We're good. Yeah. Go shit in someone else's room. That's all I'm saying. Maybe I didn't block you. I don't know. Maybe I didn't. Thought I did. No, I don't know how to do it. I'm new to this. All right, so let's figure this out then. Oh, there we go. Now, who's texting me? Yes, it would, Cherie. Saturday night evening would be good. Give me 2 seconds here. And funny part about it is they're still chatting away and all their messages are like blocked. That's kind of funny. Chat away. All right, enough of you guys. Oh, let's go here. What am I doing? Clear that up. Clear that up. Let's see, right there. Let's download the show. Are we? All right, we're almost downloaded. And go from here. Oh, for God's sakes, let's just stop this. Cancel. Go like this. Show all. There we go. Good stuff. Well, good evening, Nicole Sakic. Good evening, race fan, Louis Ta, Olin, Bombshell Bomber. Where am I here? Hey, Dirty Filth, Moosehead, Fabster, Bigfoot Rob, Shadow Time. What's going on? Teeny Squish. Hello, Greaser on Twitch. How are you? Welcome. Oh, God. You again in a different profile. How many profiles do you have, dude? Not interested. I don't even know who Candace is. What am I doing? Okay, so we got that. That's way too long. That's a commercial there. It's going to be about right there. There we go. Hey, how are you, Marie? How are you? Thank you for joining us. How would you know polar eclipse? Where is the end? Okay, so that's the start of the new one. Start here. I'm in such slow motion right now. I don't know why. I'm just in slow motion. So it should be right there. I did call. I was good to my word. Fabster got a phone call from me yesterday. I didn't see your question, Shadow Time. Do you want to repost it? I want it right there. No. No. I cut this off because it's right there. Damn it. Undo. Undo. Tomorrow night on the show, we got Merle and Ghost of the Great White North. His guests, our special guests, are the team ghost hunting team from Longhorn Paranormal out of Texas. Longhorn Paranormal out of Texas. Merle. He was in the chat room tonight. He made a special appearance. Don't know if you caught him or not, people. But Merle was in the building. Merle was in the building. Operation Northwoods. Let me remember what that is. So I'm kind of tired here. I apologize, but I am kind of tired. I could, but I'm in the middle of editing right now, the show. What could we do here? There we go. I know a little bit about it. Hey, Malou. What's up? It's almost bedtime. Almost bedtime. Where are you, Malou? Shadow Time, I did, and I am a little familiar with that. Oh, Shadow Time. I'm not saying it's. I'm not saying it's. It's not real. Amy, Dave, I promise not to annoy you on social media ever. You don't annoy me. No, those idiots over on Twitch, they were putting some pretty disgusting racist stuff up there. I don't like that stuff. It's not cool. So I reported them. Jenny, before you leave, check your MeWe. And if Princess Denali is still here, check your MeWe. I'd appreciate that. Oh, what do I gotta do? Oh, yeah, I gotta do this stuff. I am so forgetful tonight. My goodness. All right, everyone. Sorry I'm quiet. I'm really tired. I hit a wall. So I'm going to let you guys all go. And tomorrow night on the show, Merle is back. Merle, Paranormal Road Trippers, Ghost of the Great White North, talking to Longhorn Paranormal. Thank you to Bigfoot Rob, Vinster, Fabster, AZ Boy, Ed, Andrew, Horror Realm, Cedric, Murray, Chad, and Science Bob for the amazing super chats and the love and support you guys have of Spaced Out Radio. Thank you to all the veterans out there who were listening to our show on a nightly basis, all of our new subscribers, and of course, all of you chatters in the chat rooms tonight. You made it a lot of fun. Thank you for being awesome, and we will talk to you very, very soon tomorrow night in exactly just under 20 and a half hours. We'll see you then, everyone. Much love. Take care. Good night.